Thank you very much indeed, Nathan. Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to Thomond Park in Limerick. Match day 2 of the Heineken Champions Cup pool stages, and it's the 8th meeting between Munster and Gloucester, with Munster winning 5 of the previous 7 encounters, including each of the last 4. We're just waiting for the two teams to come out of the tunnel down beneath us here at Thomond Park after Munster's 10-all draw against Exeter in gale force conditions at Sandy Park last Saturday. Gloucester announced their return to this competition after a 5-year hiatus with a 19 points to 14 win over the current French champions Cast at a rain-sodden Kingsholm. Danny Cipriani with 14 points, good enough to see the Cherry and Whites over the line and top of their pool. Munster's form over the last couple of weeks has improved exponentially, and with the wind at their backs in the second half last week, perhaps a more ruthless attack could even have produced a victory away at Exeter. As it is, the wash-up from that game was the 2 points away against a very, very strong Gallagher Premiership side was a good result. What do you think about that, Keith?
I think very much. I think they played very well last weekend. Sometimes afterwards they might have harkened back to the fact they should have won it, but going there, I think they would have been very, very happy with the 2 points and put down a really good marker for it. It also shows a bit of the history that Munster have in this competition. In fact, being called the Heineken, not quite the Heineken Cup, it's the Heineken Champions Cup, but we may drift into that from time to time. But it's a big day for Gloucester coming to Thomond Park. They've fallen a cropper here often in the past, but I'll be looking at Munster to lead with the charge very well.
And that roar you will pick up on the microphones is for the kickoff, which Danny Cipriani has kicked on into the Munster 22, and 2 or 3 Munster players, principally Tadhg Byrne, who was so impressive last week, standing looking at each other. The ball was allowed to bounce inside that Munster 22, which means it's now been won on the Gloucester side, and they're on the doorstep already of that Munster 22. It's taken into the ruck by Josh Honeck, who starts today at tight head. He started last week at loose head. There's a late switch in that front row because Val Ruskin has come in to play at loose head. As we know, Munster all change in that front row, and they're also one further change in the pack of forwards. Tommy O'Donnell, who's gone in to make the first real challenge of any merit, just 2 or 3 yards outside that Munster 22, straight in front of the post. So here come Gloucester again, taking the fight to Munster inside the opening 60 seconds here. And it is that man I just mentioned, Val Ruskin, the Georgian 26-year-old, who picks and goes, and they're driving forward with the forward pack. Honeck, up goes the cry from the Munster support, because they've won that 3 or 4 metres outside their own 22, and Tadhg Byrne central to that turnover of possession already inside the opening 90 seconds or so. Liam?
Yeah, looking at Gloucester, already you can see a shape. You know, this classic 4-2-4, or the way the forwards are splitting. They're very comfortable in carrying the ball close line. For me today is about Cipriani. Can he actually mimic Joey Carberry in a similar like? Well, if he gets that quality ball, he has the ability to attack the gain line and to make very late decisions. Crucial to that is, can Gloucester give him the ball?
I think they'll try and give him the ball. I don't know whether there's comparisons are right, wrong or indifferent, but Cipriani has an ability to do phenomenal things and dreadful things in equal measure, and they kind of uses that label of a maverick has been something that's very important for him. But if he gets the ball with pace, he could do a lot of damage.
Yeah. But what's interesting is that the thing that Joey Carberry and Sexton and Cipriani can do is almost uncoachable. To be able to play on the gain line in heavy traffic. It's the other stuff that kind of lets him down, but that part of his game is phenomenal to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk this week about whether he should be in the England squad or not, and not that we care about that over here really, but
first scrum of the afternoon, and it's on Munster ball, and it's a Munster penalty. I mentioned an all-new Munster front row from last week: James Cronin, Reece Marshall and John Ryan, and the penalty affords the opportunity for Joey Carberry with ball in hand to bring Munster somewhere up around the halfway line. 2.5 minutes into the game.
Am I right, Woody, that speaking of the English squad, that Ben Morgan was lining out for Gloucester tonight? Today, should I say? He's been drafted in as well. So it does impact, because there seems to, when we see Joe Smith below with his coaching squad, they see Ireland have a much more settled place, where England is still bouncing around trying to figure out.
Very much so.
Ben Morgan was excellent against Cast last week. 18 carries in the game in front of the onlooking Eddie Jones, who, as the guys were saying, elected not to choose Cipriani. So first Munster line out of the afternoon has gone right over the heads of everyone and out into midfield. It's Gloucester ball, but they've had to scrap for it. It went through the hands initially of the captain for the day, Ed Slater. Ben Morgan wore the armband last week against the French, and Cipriani has it on halfway, right in the centre of the field. He hoists up the first Gary Owen of the afternoon, and it's well read and easily claimed and marked by Mike Haley in that full-back position.
I think it's a pretty big game for Mike Haley this week. With a nice attitude to the game that was talked about very well when he came over, but he hasn't set a light yet, and he has great skills. It's just taken him a bit longer to ease into that 15 jersey that I think Munster supporters would like.
But it's an unbelievable, Woody, the expectation. Like, you have a new half-back pairing yet again and a new back three yet again, and we expect it takes time.
It does.
Well, where Munster turned over the ball from their own line-out, Gloucester have done exactly the same thing. So it's Munster ball just 3 or 4 metres shy of their own 10-metre line in the Munster half of the field, and time for Duncan Williams to set himself. And he hoists up that box kick, and it's dropping right on halfway. It's got a long way to travel, and it's been well claimed on halfway. It's Gloucester ball, and a chance for them to organise themselves with Callum Braley, who was excellent against Cass last week, instrumental in the try that ultimately got them over the gain line. Cipriani spins it wide, and forward pass from Billy Twelvetrees is looking to try and get Matt Banahan involved in off this right hand side. He's in the side for Charlie Sharples today.
Wow, he was pushing the wind and the skill set there.
Yeah, I think pushing the skill set, if we're honest. I think he was a kind of leading light, hopefully, for Leicester back in the day. He's never quite managed to pull it. He's got a number of caps. Has gone a lot bigger than he was, and he's become more of a bruising centre, but I don't know that he has the skills for the bruising centre side either. Isn't
it an insight into maybe the English Premiership, which was in doubt from last week's results, obviously, but a player like he set the Premiership alight on many occasions, yet transitioning that to this level and on to the next level has been a struggle.
He joined Gloucester in 2012, having made 19 appearances during his halcyon days really at the Leicester Tigers, Billy Twelvetrees. So Munster won a penalty from the previous scrum. They've got the second one of the afternoon right on halfway. It's been wheeling around, but it's there for CJ Stander. They're under a little bit of pressure here, the Munster pack of forwards. Gloucester trying to pile through and counter ruck, but Peter O'Mahony settles the situation down. He's got his foot on the ball. We're midway between the halfway line and the Munster 10-metre line, and Duncan Williams takes over and feeds John Ryan. Rolled his ankle last week, but fit to start today in place of Stephen Archer in that Munster front row. And Tadhg leaves it for Williams, and he hoists it high. Not too much breeze around this evening, and the man we were talking about a moment ago in terms of his size and physique, Matt Banahan, took that one high above his head really well, and Gloucester have it on this near side right down below us on halfway. Braley into midfield. Munster calling for more resources to the right hand side where Gloucester have got good numbers. Cipriani goes a little bit deeper that time, and this time they hoist one wide out onto that left hand side to Tom Marshall. Dinks one in behind, asks the question of the Munster fullback, and Haley is equal to it, and then he's a little bit audacious with a pass up off the floor having been tackled, and Munster kicked downfield into the Gloucester 22. The howls are for Cipriani, who's off in retreat, and it's a good chase, good pickup, and it's a good kick back into Munster territory.
Just on Haley there, that was an incredibly difficult bouncing ball, and he picked it up on the move, which can be a bit nerve-wracking to do it. And yes, he did have a bit of a flick out of the pass, but I think he knew where the players were. It was safe enough.
But to me, that shows a culture that doesn't happen by accident. They're obviously being encouraged to get the ball away from contact.
He made a lot of metres in very difficult conditions to get a side out of trouble quite a few times last week. Mike Haley, the guy who's got over 100 Premiership appearances down the years.
Big line out here for the starting hooker, Reece Marshall. 2 line-outs so far, 1 stolen by each side.
And they were so good at line-out time last week, both offensively and defensively, but second one in a row finds only a Gloucester hand, and it's Gloucester ball just inside the Munster half. That's a concern. No Niall Scannell, of course, who picked up a knock in training this week and can't play. Reece Marshall in his place. Back they go to Cipriani in the pocket, and his option now is to hoist one right onto the Munster 22, and again Haley well positioned, got his body in the air and took it quite comfortably. Munster ball inside their own 22. Williams comes to the base of the ruck. He was so good last week.
Did he take it back into the 22?
He was very tight to that line. Williams goes directly to touch, and they try and go quickly, and that was forward.
So that's amazing. That's the fourth line out, if you call that a line out. All four have been lost to the opposition for one reason or another.
Yeah, I was looking at the line out on the far side. It was a system failure.
Yeah.
There's a bit of confusion around the calling. I wonder whether they were talking. There was a chat earlier on in the week about Grobler coming back in, knowing all the calls, whether they were making a lot of changes on it. I can see that Tyke Byrne is actually making a lot of the calls offensively in the line out, so it's whether there are some confusions there.
8 minutes gone, 8.5 minutes gone, and we've had the first successful line out of the afternoon, if you want to call that, because Gloucester have managed to claim their own ball on halfway, and they've brought play into midfield. There's a Munster body on the floor, and they've turned it over. I think it may well have been Reece Marshall. Gloucester felt they should have had a penalty, not so, and then there was a high tackle, so we'll have a Munster penalty just inside the Gloucester half of the field from a central position.
It was one of the players was exposed by Gloucester when he went down in that corner of the field. Marshall was straight in on time. Bit of a petulant go from their 9 from Callum Braley. He seemed to kind of react against it, but it was cracking play. And Munster finally get the chance to get into Gloucester's half.
So Carberry kicks right-footed and brings play almost up to that Gloucester 22. Now, can they sort out that call? Get their jumpers. The tactic in the Gale last week down at Sandy Park was to get your jumper at 2 up in the air. I'm not sure the referee, Jerome Garces, might have copped on a little bit earlier that Pete O'Mahony was up in the air very early, but certainly it worked. It functioned incredibly well.
He's got a very, very quick spring.
It's nice and light to hoist into that position. So Reece Marshall now. Tyke Byrne makes the call. In front of him is Jean Klein. Behind him Peter O'Mahony, and they go to Klein this time. And it's a successful start. And now it's the driving Munster maul inside that Gloucester 22, trundling forward slowly at first and then gathering a little bit of pace. And there's one or two Gloucester players going for a little swim along the side of that maul, but it's Duncan Williams' ball out to the 22. Scannell now hard and direct at that Gloucester defensive midfield. Williams can see it and recycle it quickly, and he gets it away to CJ Stander, who was so good with ball in hand last week, but he's dropped that one. Munster have turned it over in the red zone, and Gloucester now from inside their own 22 looking to try and attack from deep, and they've been bundled into touch over on that far side, and it'll be a Munster line out, but it was an opportunity missed.
I think when we talk about Duncan Williams and last week, and he played an awful lot better last week, when he played really well, it was when he passed from the floor, passed it with a really tight, accurate pass. When he takes a step away from the next player who gets the ball, he can't do that. What he actually did in the midst of that, it was a poor pass. It was kind of dying and drifting away from CJ Stander. He caught it, but he didn't catch it in a full level of control when he went into contact, and these are the things that need to happen. It isn't about passing the ball, it's about passing the ball perfectly, and I think a lot of the criticism for Duncan Williams over the past has been too high. I think some of the credit he got over last weekend has been too high as well. He just needs to get the ball tight passing where it's supposed to be without taking up too much space.
Well, Gloucester have a scrum in front of their posts, and it's their turn to win the penalty.
Now, Woody, certainly a dominant scrum in many ways. That's a decision entirely based on interpretation of what Munster were trying to do.
There's a mixture on that, and there's been just to explain to the listeners, there was a small bit of a whip on the scrum, and it was Munster were penalised for that. But what's actually happening when you're in a weaker scrum is one of the players on one side of the Gloucester scrum can take a shift to the left, which makes it look like it's a spin around.
Yeah.
It has become a bit of a blight on the game, actually.
We're just watching that replay as Gloucester get set for their line out. Franco Moraes goes
crooked
to find
directly,
his jumpers, and
directly in front of us here, Conor. I mean, a bit of fun. That was exit stage left.
But again, it shows like the very channel that Peter O'Mahony is getting into the air is the very channel that they're targeting. It's bizarre. So, like, you know, going back to the days when Willie Anderson was coaching us, he brought in the concept of there was this kind of one step back, one step forward, and plant and jump. When he was trying to encourage our line out targets, don't plant, just spring into the air. And I think that's the advantage Peter O'Mahony has. He's saving, I don't know, half a second or something, but the difference in time getting into the air. But why would you line up manage the ball into the exact spot that one of the best in the world, Peter O'Mahony, are targeting the ball in the air?
I mean, I was being a small bit facetious earlier on that he's got a good spring in him. He has, like, and the most incredible vertical jump. He's easily the best of the Ireland squad forward. You also have Tyg Byrne in there who's light and a bean pole, and you're able to throw him up at the same time. It is a difficult place into which to throw it into. But when you're losing lineouts, you want to try and go back to something that was simple. That's exactly what Gloucester did. They said the simple thing is throw it to two flat, you'll be fine. Only Peter O'Mahony is standing there.
Ignoring Peter O'Mahony.
Exactly.
Like, you could argue Peter O'Mahony got a Lions test tour because of his performance against Orge against England. This guy's world class at that. Yeah. So don't avoid him if you can. A little like avoid John Hayes. Wherever he's lifting, avoid him.
Wherever he is, avoid him.
Duncan Williams has the ball just in front of him, in between the feet of CJ Stander at the base of that Munster scrummage, which was solid enough. The ball then went through the hands of Scannell, and it's been picked up by Haley. His little attempted grubber kick through was blocked down, but there's going to be a Gloucester penalty here just inside the Munster half of the field on that left hand side.
There was one of the old adages in rugby is you don't shovel rubbish along the line. It may not have been rubbish.
The word rubbish wasn't quite the word.
But you don't, so when something goes wrong, you don't try and move it out further. You try and consolidate and start again, and Munster didn't. They just didn't play that right piece of play. It was a pass that kind of bobbled in the air, went onto the ground and continued going it. But you're doing it when you're not on the front foot. You put yourself under huge pressure.
But it also looked, Woody, that they stayed too true to a pre-planned move that wasn't working. They tried to keep the pre-planned move going.
I mean, Munster nervous so far. They haven't set the place alight. They're now 7 metres from their line. A fair bit of pressure.
Good kick from Cipriani. What little bit of breeze there is around Thomond Park this afternoon is certainly aiding the Cherry and Whites in this first half, and they've managed to get their hands on that line out, and they've got a very, very good maul going here. Munster with that maul broke into they needed to get numbers back very, very quickly. I know they tried something in midfield, and it was very, very good because they did have 2 or 3 numbers to the right hand side. Banahan was in acres of space. He wanted it maybe popped over the top. It didn't come, and we'll go all the way back to 5 metres out for a Gloucester penalty. The referee was playing an advantage for pulling down that maul, I think.
But that maul detached and no longer was a maul because it was entirely made up of Gloucester players. So whoever the Munster player came in to tackle it at that point was prevented from attacking the ball. And
interestingly, Cipriani, having spoke to Ed Slater, has gone for touch, so it's another 5 metre line out over on that far side. He was 5 out of 5 off the kicking tee last week against Cass Cipriani. They've turned down 3 points here, and now they go to their jumpers again. It's one well and it's one high, and they funnel it all the way back to Franco Moraes, and spinning around the side they go on the 5 metre line. Munster on the defensive. We played 15 and a half minutes at Thomond Park, and it's Gloucester asking the questions of the Munster defence. Ball is kept into the tight, and the Munster numbers coming flying in. CJ Stander is in there, so too is Peter O'Mahony, as you would expect, edging towards the centre of the pitch now and right in front of the Munster post, 7 metres out. Billy Twelvetrees is taken down. Good low tackle. Honeck now, the tight head prop, carries it a metre or 2. There's Munster hands on it, and there may be a turnover coming here. Tyg Byrne has won it, and he's won it really well. Tommy O'Donnell is in there to help him out, and it's back on the Munster side, and they've survived that little bit of a siege down in that far corner extremely well, and it's cleared by Williams. Doesn't find his touch though, and Gloucester might just try and attack on that blind side now. Banahan, first time when he's got ball in hand, he gets it away to Ben Morgan.
There's a cheap shot, got into 13. Savage, number 4. Hickogan, real cheap shot.
Callum Braley got the ball away, but the touch judge on this near side has seen what Liam has seen, and he will call over Alexander Ruiz, the French referee.
Like we all love a relatively borderline violent entry, but this is where Goggin was very exposed, and he hits him right square on the neck.
It's always good watching a game with Liam Toland. He has eyes in the back of his head. I followed the
following
ball
the ball.
I didn't see that at all, and we're looking for a replay just to come up on our screen here in front of us. The referee is also going to look for it, and if it is as bad as you've said, Liam, this could make a fairly material change to the team. And look, I'm not a huge fan of that poaching style anyway, of a guy exposing his neck back into it. It's one of the things in the game. It wasn't really around when I played, and I know I sound a bit like an old fuddy-duddy, but
so we're seeing on the monitor there, that's just the clearance kick.
Yeah,
We're going to have to wind all the way forward.
So I think they're after missing part of what that is, and here we're going to see it now. But a player is exposed in that position. If he's bridged in over the ball, or if he's part of a ruck,
so
they are exposed.
There,
so there's
4.
Goggin. Good hit. It's kind of a clear with the head, I think, from we're looking in here. So Goggin is slightly on the wrong side, a bit of a swinging arm in on it, but hard to see it from that side actually. But we're looking at it from the other side, so going to kind of take Liam's view on it. They're just checking to see is it a high tackle first, and that is a drop of the shoulder.
Yeah.
So it depends if they need another. Here's the angle for it now, for the listeners. A little bit of patience. I'm not sure. I think it looked worse than it was. If I'm honest.
There's 2 contacts around that ruck, isn't there? Really, I think it's the initial one from Tom Savage. There's a little bit more force attached to that, and certainly more use of the shoulder. We're going to see it again, definitively, potentially on the slower replay.
Straight onto his neck.
That's the drop. Yeah, it's on his. I think it hits his shoulder first, but there's a I know there's a variation on it. That's where it goes in. So. I will say
binding. He didn't bind. He just
I will say that
it's
a penalty because he just dropped in with his shoulder. It's whether it's anything more in terms of that. And
personally speaking, that should be, because it's the only way to clear up that type of behaviour.
Well, it is certainly something that they're looking to eradicate from the game. The referees and the officials right around Europe, and indeed further beyond, are very, very sweet on this particular issue at this moment in time. And just watching it, we've seen it possibly a dozen times now. The referee's not going to get a better angle from those which he's seen already, and
it depends on his interpretation, Conor, really, as to how strict he wants to be on it. I will say
he's calling him over anyway, would he?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at his body language. It looks like it may well be. Yeah, it's a yellow card. So we've played 16 and a half minutes, and for the next 10 Gloucester will be down to 14. Tom Savage, the second row, in the bin for that indiscretion, shall we say, at ruck time on Dan Goggin.
Like, I think, there's a lot of debate about the height of the tackle, etc. I think this area has to be addressed in how we want our players entering to support the ball, and how we want our players, opposition players, clearing out those subsequent players. It's a very, very vulnerable place that the player's putting himself into. So the question is the cause and effect. The effect is how he reacted. The cause is how Goggin went in over the ball in the first place.
It's agreed. Back to line-out. Reece Marshall.
Just inside the Gloucester half of the field on this near side of the pitch as we look out from our vantage point in the commentary box. And he goes to the tail of the line-out this time. Nice little switch around that time, and he finds Tadhg Byrne. I think it was Tadhg Byrne who turned over the ball 4 or 5 minutes ago, just inside that Munster 22, to get them into this position that they now find themselves, which is approaching the Gloucester 10-metre line. And they're trundling on and making good yards, the pack of forwards, and the ball has not come back on the Munster side, and it'll be a Gloucester put into the scrummage. Plenty of the support around about this field. Munster should have had a penalty for a Gloucester player in an offside position there.
Well, if I pick on Liam's point for earlier on, I think we may find that Alexander Ruiz, the referee, may not understand what a maul is or is not. The previous one was truck and trailer. This one absolutely wasn't, because they'd made contact with the white jersey of a Gloucester player, and one of their front row just slunk in at the back and made a tackle. So I actually think the referee needs to widen his perspective to figure out what's happening in front of him, as well as just a foot in front of him, because that's a rubbish decision. Referees are being put under huge scrutiny at the moment. I mean, the laws are changing a bit, the level of interpretation is changing. Always in these first 2 weeks of Europe, they kind of come down hard on something or other, but I often feel as when you come down hard on one thing, you tend to forget other things.
Of course, the beauty as well, Woody, we've been used to watching a different competition till this point, and the referees are coming out of it. So we're getting into the rhythm of our domestic competition, how the referees are working, and all of a sudden this is a whole new interpretation of that particular, which is infuriating if you're a player.
I was going to say, it doesn't make it better,
It's infuriating. Look at the Gloucester, look at the possession stakes. Like nil all with that. An action area. That's disappointing, isn't it, for Munster point of view?
73% action area in the Munster half. That's the stats that Liam's referring to.
Well, we've nearly had the opening quarter of the game. It's been very scrappy. There's been ball lost in contact. There's been ball lost from touch at line-out time. There's been a couple of reset scrummages. Matt Banahan goes to lend his support to the scrum that is in the absence of Tom Savage on Gloucester. Ball on the 10-metre line, and it's been turned over. Duncan Williams did really, really well. Then the Munster scrum half, and they're midway now between the 10-metre line and the Gloucester 22 with ball in hand. The hand of Peter O'Mahony, to be exact, on that occasion. Williams now has plenty of options, and he goes and finds Rory Scannell. Williams again, now Carberry, haven't really seen him with ball in hand at all, and he shipped a very, very big tackle there. Still in the same position now, trying to make their way up to that 22, carried on this time by CJ Stander. Williams, Munster moving the ball a little quicker now. Carberry, and the ball doesn't go to hand. It's picked up by Scannell, and now O'Mahony, and he gets it away to Sweetenham, and he gets away from the tackle, and Williams, and he had Tommy O'Donnell inside. We're up to 7-8 metres. Duncan Williams had an option on his right shoulder. He didn't see him, or he didn't get a call from Tommy O'Donnell. Munster might have it in for the first try of the afternoon. As it is, they're 8 metres out from that Gloucester line, and they're recycling the ball a good deal quicker now. Reece Marshall, first time we've really seen Munster in this position and in good numbers. Sweetenham in off his wing, gets it away to Klein. Klein brings play up to 5 metres. Duncan Williams again gets it away to James Cronin, and they're queuing up here, Munster. And now they go out into midfield. Byrne is over it, taken into contact, 6 metres short. Williams goes to his right hand side, moves it on to Klein. A little bit slower this time for the Munster scrum half. Now it goes into midfield, and Sweetenham, and he's got Conway outside, and Healy too, and there is the first try. And they were patient, and they were purposeful, and they were ruthless in the end. And it's a try for the Munster fullback, Mike Healy, and he's taken it very, very well. Once they got it as far as Joey Carberry in open field, there was always going to be an extra number out there. They are playing with a man advantage, and they have taken full advantage. 21.5 minutes on the watch at Thomond Park, and Munster lead Gloucester by 5 points to 0.
And that's part of the cultural shift that we've experienced for Munster the last few weeks. Last season they were just battered and battered and battered for as long as they could, and they may have scored enough, but they opened up the window. Gloucester concertinaed, and all of a sudden a whole new opportunity comes with space, and they attack it. They still didn't have a huge amount of space, but they attacked Gloucester where they're weakest. That was quality cultural shift in what Munster were trying to do, and good skill set to put him in the corner.
It was good play down the blind side. Duncan Williams butchered an inside pass that would have led to a try. I think he's pretty happy that they scored in the other corner.
2 from 2 from the kicking tee last week at Sandy Park. They don't come much more difficult than this as a first kick of the afternoon for Joey Carberry. He's measured that very, very well. It's only just off target from right over on that far touchline. So 5 points it remains. We've got 4 minutes left on the sin bin, 22 minutes on the watch, and it's the first strike of the afternoon for Munster.
Do you know, Conor, you forget it until you come back again, the silence for the kickers here. I almost feel guilty talking over it, so I left you do it instead. But it is, you know, there is something amazing for that to happen in here. I can see the 16 coming on. Henry Walker is coming on. Actually, that tackle that was pulled by Franco Murray on Joey Carberry, he was the one who crumpled in it, and then he crumpled again on the other side. He hurt himself, and he tried to put out a big hit on R10. And he was the one who came off worse, so there's an early change in the Gloucester front row.
Cipriani restarts down into the Munster 22, and this time it falls into the arms of CJ Stander. Munster looking to execute a more forthright exit strategy on this occasion. Williams doesn't find touch. He's kept that in play and asked Woodward to come forward from fullback in a Gloucester shirt and claim it, which he's done. And then there's a counter ruck coming through at a rate of knots from Duncan Williams. Maybe somebody had a flea in his ear having missed the pass for Tommy O'Donnell, and then it's Peter O'Mahony not releasing, which brings a Gloucester penalty, and they're just a metre short of the Munster 10 metre line on this near side. Confirmation of that switch in the front row meantime.
I thought Peter O'Mahony played brilliantly last week. He still gave away a lot of penalties. He's always going to be one of the guys to give them away. But once you've got a score, you want to try and get back into the half. You don't want to have the situation where all the hard work that Munster have had to try and get that 5 point lead may go away with a Cipriani kick from about 45 metres. You know, you just don't want to be in that position. And
especially, Woody, when you look at the stats, you say that was Munster's probably only visit into 22, and they scored the 5 points relatively easily.
They did, but it's the first time that they've had in there.
Well, they conceded 11 penalties in the game at Exeter last week. They were forced to make 185 tackles at Sandy Park, Munster, as we await the kick from Danny Cipriani. A long way out on a almost flat calm afternoon. What little bit of breeze there is with him. He's measured that very, very well indeed. Just about had the legs to make it over the bar, but it did.
A fantastic kick from Cipriani. I have to apologise to Peter O'Mahony. He did absolutely nothing wrong in that play. He was the guy to go in on the ball. He wasn't involved in the tackle.
Didn't have to release, should have been a penalty.
Correct.
5 points to 3, 24 minutes gone. That's a confidence booster if he needs such a thing for Danny Cipriani. He's had a torrid time down the years against Irish provincial sides. I remember one particular occasion when they came up against Munster when he was playing for Seal, and he didn't have a great afternoon, shall we say. Munster now have won the restart. Tyke Byrne has made good inroads into that Gloucester 22, and here are Munster now straight in front of the Gloucester post. Ball is there for Duncan Williams. It's very, very high for Cipriani, whose solar plexus was exposed there, but he managed to get away from the onrushing attackers, but not quickly enough to recycle the ball. Penalty Gloucester, 2 metres outside their 22.
Yeah, it was a poor pass by Duncan Williams to Carberry. He literally he took a step back, he had a big wind up, and he threw it about a metre too high, and Carberry was lucky to catch it. And this is one of the issues that you have. Do the simple things, do them well, especially at 9, because that's what's needed for your 10. When we think that Carberry is the guy to set Munster alight, he just needs the ball where he wants it.
The shame, of course, as well, Woody, is that the opportunity was down a rewind down the blind side, and Gloucester nobody. So we're seeing it on the monitors here. There's a huge opportunity here. That's where you want Rory Scannell to dictate the ball flowing in there.
I do think that's something that Munster are just not particularly good at going, and I'm hoping that Healy will be the guy to do that. I think it's great to have a guy at 15 with his eyes up.
Really good contest in the air from the line out from that penalty. First throw of the afternoon for the newly introduced Henry Walker, and he managed to find his target despite a really good read and jump from Tyke Byrne. It was almost two sets of hands on the ball, but Gloucester have it, and they're looking to get their maul going forward. They're absolutely stationary, and the referee belatedly tells them to use it, and they don't, and it's turnover ball.
Brilliant play by Tyke Byrne. You can see that bright blue scrum cap that he has. He's stuck in the middle of it. They're all absolutely peeved with him. They're having a bit of a go back. Munster will just love that. They love that little bit of edge, but that's great. I think Tyke Byrne has making himself being pretty happy within the whole Munster ranks.
He's calling over, the referee is calling over Tyke Byrne and one of the Gloucester players just to try and simmer it down ever so slightly.
For what though? For what? Like, Tyke Byrne engaged, didn't give away a penalty, stayed when he hit the ground, then attacked the ball. What's this lecture about?
Well, it's the youngster Jake Polledri, the 22-year-old open side flanker, who's getting the talking to from Alexander Ruiz. Talented young player, the number 7, capped 3 times already for Italy. And the sin binning is over, so 10 minutes flew by, and back with us is Tom Savage into that Gloucester second row, and he returns with the scoreboard reading Munster 5, Gloucester 3. If you're just joining us, 26.5 minutes in at Thomond Park in Limerick, Pool 2 of the Heineken Champions Cup. Munster this afternoon hoping to make it 10 consecutive wins in this competition at Thomond Park. Haven't lost here since December of 2015 when the Tigers came here and turned them over. Only 8 defeats, remember, in 80 matches on home soil in this competition. Duncan Williams will feed the Munster scrummage in between the halfway line and the Munster 10-metre line, and there's another penalty coming at scrum time here, and it's another penalty for Munster.
I just remembering back to the days when you get in a scrum, when somebody's done something to annoy you, you get the opportunity to kind of rumble them over, squash them into the ground. There's something beautiful about that, you know, and that just, Munster crowd love that as well. I mean, that's fantastic, great scrum.
And the bigger scheme of things, John Ryan's performance today. Like, there's a lot, the November series coming in, there's a lot at stake for these guys. Archer, Ryan, who like the pecking order shifting a lot over the last few weeks, I would thought.
Not shifting from number 1 though.
There's no doubt. Come on. Let's pretend it is for a moment.
And from a tight angle, Joey Carberry is only able to make 15 or 20 yards down this touchline, so it's almost on the 10-metre line. It's taken by Tadhg Byrne, whose influence in this game 28 minutes in is growing by the minute. Munster ball with Duncan Williams. Scannell takes it on. That's a high tackle. Referee's only 2 yards away. He hasn't put his arm out. Everybody up in the stand here saw it. Keith Wood saw it. It was very, very clear. It may even have been a swinging arm, and it was right in front of the post, and Gloucester have turned that over. And what a call that could be. It's with 12 trees as they try and work their way out of their own half of the pitch here. And the referee's got a shot, I think. He's going to have a look upstairs with the TMO, so one of the referee's assistants has given him a dig out.
Now listen to this for a bizarre thing, right? When you take into account the referee's height, there are occasions where he simply mightn't see it because he's actually relatively short in height. So if we see the high tackle coming in here, look at all the big men around it. I think the referee's view is actually blocked, to be fair to him.
Well, it's Scannell taking the ball into contact. Cipriani is one of the players involved, but it's
a high
prop,
shot from his it's Cipriani with his shoulder, bang into the face, tackle, no look to make a tackle. That is a yellow card. I know you're talking about the referee being short. I will say that I think he has been a little bit lost in this game. It is a big game. It's a lot of pressure. Don't know the full level of experience he is. I actually haven't seen him before. Have you, Liam?
No.
That could be for the fact we haven't been watching a huge amount of rugby, more than him not being at them, but we'll give him that potential.
Well, he's talking as he makes his way back over to Philippe Bonaire up in the TMO. And he's got to be more concerned about the use of the shoulder and lack of arms from Cipriani. There was also a flailing arm from one of the Gloucester props. I think it was Josh Honeck, but he's called both players over. He's called the captain over with Cipriani. Peter O'Mahony is there as well, and he's explaining the nature of the discourse with the TMO, and it's a red card. It is a red card for Danny Cipriani, 28 and a half minutes in to this match, and Cipriani will see no more.
I tell you, my heart sinks. I know you got to treat that type of behaviour with zero thing, but Cipriani, I feel terrible for him. It's the right decision.
Well, I called it as a yellow because I do think that there has to be some level of appropriate. I do want to get it brought down all the time. It's a big deal for me that I think that needs to happen. I want to get rid of that tackle. Maybe that's a way of doing it. I will say that Cipriani put his hand up and apologised to the player.
Yeah, we're watching. That's the worst replay, and on the basis of that, the element of force and the deliberate nature of it, he knows what he's doing, and the criteria set out by World Rugby. I mean, that's got to be a red card, I think.
Well, to be fair to him, when you say he knows what he's doing, his technique entering the tackle was what the problem was.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way he went in to attack his. It was a sloppy technique entering the tackle which led to this.
And the net result is a penalty for Joey Carberry straight in front of the Gloucester posts. 27 metres out. And Carberry strikes with that right foot, and he strikes very well. And Munster have an 8 points to 3 advantage as we approach the half-hour mark, and they will play the remainder of the game against 14. Danny Cipriani sent off here.
This is where game management from Joey Carberry has to come in. We know all the other bells and whistles he does. He's got to put Munster immediately back into the Gloucester half and just keep chucking away. Once they get into the half, they're going to start scoring relatively easy. So game management needs to put them back there. They need to, obviously, all the other permutations need to fall in, but Carberry needs to manage this next.
Billy Twelvetrees takes over the kicking duties and gets us restarted, and it's with CJ Stander inside that Munster 22. The entire complexion now of this game has been turned on its head, potentially. Tadhg Byrne. Again, there's an arm of a Gloucester player around the neck of the Munster player who was going to ground, but nonetheless it's dangerous, it's high, it's a penalty. And just to qualify the statement, I mean, we've spoken about it at Pro 14 games and the onus on the tackling player, Liam, as you say, to pivot from the hips and not put himself in Danny Cipriani's situation, whereby if he goes high into a tackle, and you can talk all day about profiting from choke tackles, it's not a dangerous thing to do, because you open yourself up to adjudication that you've gone with your head or your shoulder, and that's what Cipriani did.
Well, even more importantly, the statistical analysis around the contact zone tells us if the tackling player lowers his height, the person doing the tackling, the outcome is far healthier than if the tackling player enters high. In fact, the person who typically gets injured is the guy entering the tackler. So there's a whole series of reasons and logic why you want to get the tackle level down, but what we've seen now is you'll avoid red cards and yellow cards and penalties.
And if that's the reason, then that has to be the case. Well, so be it. I know a lot of people are arguing against it. They argued about Jerome Kino, who had a similar type of tackle but had a far higher level of contact than Cipriani had there. He got a 5-week suspension for it. People were saying he shouldn't have been sent off. He should have been, and I think that was stronger than this one, by the way.
Munster have kicked that penalty up to the 10-metre line and restarted with another very, very sloppy line out. Reece Marshall didn't quite find his jumpers, but they've managed to recycle the ball, and it's with Sweetenham, and he's very tight to this touchline as he approaches the Gloucester 10-metre line. It's with Duncan Williams. Munster have it inside the Gloucester half of the field. Tackle goes in from Freddie Clark on the blind side of that Gloucester back row this afternoon. Peter O'Mahony takes ball to ground just shy of the 10-metre line. Williams once again lines up his targets, and Reece Marshall carries.
I don't know why again they're playing from inside their own half. I know there's a slight wind against them.
On the short side this time, Sweetenham hungry for work and looking to get involved and showing very, very nice feet to skip away from one or two challenges, but Munster struggling to get beyond that Gloucester 10-metre line. Tyke Byrne carries. Williams now to Carberry. Scannell. And Scannell puts some width on it. Healy. You hear the oohs and the ahs around Thomond Park. The Gloucester line speed was very good, and Healy was almost caught then over the top. It goes for Marshall. That's clever. Back inside, basketball style from Conway to Williams, and then there's a really big tackle goes in on Joey Carberry, and he's a little bit slow to get back to his feet. Arm is out from the referee as Munster make their way inside the Gloucester 22. Carberry is a little bit slow to shake off the effects of that tackle and retake his place at receiver. Now he's back in the line. Can he get his kick right? He's got Sweetenham out on this side. Carberry kicks it through, and he just couldn't quite measure it to perfection. Sweetenham was almost there. We're going to go back for the penalty though.
It's extraordinary. That's about the fourth high hit that requires an intervention. All from Gloucester.
And the referee is he having a look at it? But again, this is the high. It is a high contact because his position in going into contact is upright. So he hits him with his head. I'm going to say if Cipriani's was that, this isn't far off it. So it's like. It's appalling. Well, it's hard when you're talking to, look, we have this when you're talking to kids and trying to get them to tackle. You tackle from the waist. This hit with the chest up high is just, it's gone from the game. It used to be an intermittent element of it. Now it's this sort of constant part because of the chokehold, but of the ability to disrupt the ball. It is one of the issues that is in the game at the moment. They're trying to clamp down on it, but the players need to get their act together. They need to start tackling lower, because if you hit someone with your head just because you're standing up, that's a high shot. If you're hitting them with your head to their head, it's a penalty against you. Well, we're just watching now.
I think
things are always different when you're playing with 14 already.
He's been as gentle as he can to try and avoid another card.
Well, Gloucester players need to get their body height down to the right level. He's trying to say, I'm trying to hit him up high. We're looking at one of the players trying to discuss exactly their tackling technique. Well, it obviously doesn't work, so they need to get their tackling technique down.
But I suppose the role of a referee in any match is to
ref what he sees.
Is to change the behaviour of the players, and this is a distinct behaviour of the Gloucester players. They have a tackle technique that is not appropriate to the game that we're saying, and the referee has been put into very, very awkward positions to try and change that behaviour. But Gloucester still don't seem to be learning. They're saying to the referee, no, we're doing X, Y and Z, and the referee is saying, I don't care, I'm going to send you all off if you keep doing it.
I mean, you play to the laws and you affect what is a correct tackle, but you also play the referee, and he's seen enough now that if it continues he's going to have no option. Meantime, from that penalty and the resulting line out, Peter O'Mahony has taken the ball. And Munster get that driving maul going, and they're up to 5 metres, 4 metres, and they're very close. They're going to get over surely here. The crowd are on their feet even before they have touched down, but Munster get the second try of the afternoon. That is brilliant stuff from the Packer forwards. Really, really worked it so well from line out time. I think it's going to be accredited to James Cronin. It's Reece Marshall actually who's come up with the ball.
I think it would have been a penalty try because of the way Gloucester were trying to do it. It was beautiful technique. You could have put a tablecloth on the back of the whole of the Munster pack. They were down really, really low. Fantastic position, nice tight position, pushed straight in over the line. I had a little bit of a giggle because the referee was in his run to get around to see whether it was a try or not, skipped the last 3 or 4 parts of it. I just got a bit of giggling.
Well, I tell you, in terms of technique of defending a line out, considering who you're playing against and where you're playing, Gloucester had 2 of the front row shepherding the blind side, and they had their open side out. They had 3 of their pack. They essentially just conceded ground.
So Reece Marshall has added a second try for Munster, and Joey Carberry's kick is true and good and full of conviction, and up go the flags, and Munster are pressing home this numerical advantage where it counts most, and that is on the scoreboard. They lead by 15 points to 3, 5 minutes of the regulation, 40 of this first half remain.
It's been a bit nervy, and sometimes it's very difficult when you're playing against 14 players, but that was the first opportunity with the player off the field, and it was clinical.
Very, very good execution, well worked, and a little bit of breathing space you feel now for Munster. It's been a frantic enough first half, a litany of penalties and drop balls, and certainly Munster will feel they can execute better.
I think that they'll realise going into half-time they'll be frustrated, but they'll realise there's a gulf in quality between both sides. This Munster side, with the wind at their back in the second half, are definitely, if they just stick to their processes, I fancy Gloucester going to just ebb away slowly but surely.
Well, Gloucester have it with Tom Marshall just inside that Munster half of the field, taking play up to the 10-metre line on the right-hand side of the pitch. Brearley looks to get his pack of forwards moving right in front of the Munster post, but a long way out. Into midfield they go. Paul Edry. 2 or 3 Munster tacklers there. The ball is slow coming back on the Gloucester side because Munster are very, very good at ruck time. They're getting the numbers over the ball legally this time, and it's another penalty. Turnover again.
Bad news. Tommy O'Donnell is in bad shape. Bad shape.
He is wincing and holding his head in his hands, lying down here in front of us. I mean, that guy has been nothing but plagued with injury for nearly his whole career. Didn't quite see what happened with it, but as we watched the play moving to the other side of the field, he was lying down on the ground in obvious discomfort.
Well, for what it's worth, it was James Cronin with the turnover. I was watching the ball. The 2 lads quite rightly are watching Tommy O'Donnell, and he's just making that motion with his hands on the ground. He's attended to by the physio.
Looks like an ankle, is it?
I think it's his ankle,
left ankle maybe.
He felt something go beneath him. As you say, he's had such rotten luck with injuries over the years.
It's a wonderful examination of back row balance and style, the difference between the 2 potential starting open sides. I think for me, Tommy O'Donnell is a quality player. He can play football, he can add value to the ball. He doesn't get as many steals as the man he's competing with, but he's got an awful lot of strings to his bow. Big loss for him.
They're actually putting on Arno Botha is going on as
the guns of the Navarone. See his arms, he's mad alive.
Well, we'll carry on with some attention on the field of play for Tommy O'Donnell. We spoke about the fact that he's shipped quite a few injuries. Had a small procedure on his shoulder at the end of the season, but he's had much worse injuries than that down the years. Remember, he missed the 2015 World Cup with a dislocated hip, and they're bringing on the stretcher. But as Liam was saying, Arno Botha coming into that back row dynamic is going to be very, very interesting. That back 5 in the pack really for Munster has been excellent. I was mentioning the fact that we're looking at it as something of an exponential improvement over the last couple of weeks. We looked at the game of the Aviva and how they came on. It seemed leaps and bounds with a similar kind of back 5, but that was the same back 5 ultimately that went to Cardiff and didn't show up in the second half of the Pro 14 game against the Blues. So it's still a body of work to be done before we can get. I mean, it looks as though they're putting themselves in a position here to win this game potentially comfortably, but I'm just wondering in the journey that they've got to go on in this early part of the season where they're at.
Look, I think they've made enormous strides, not just in like we saw how the line-out struggled initially, and that's the type our expectation expects that to be quality. It takes time for all this to bed in. But if you go down through the team sheet, if this team, and you add Niall Scannell in and a few other players in as well,
Conor Murray, Keith Earls,
all of a sudden you're going to go, but it's really down to the half-back pairing. Are they in a position when the real white-hot heat of a cup playoff game are they bedded in to do the exact thing, the right thing, control the game and execute? But the names that they're amassing, if they stay injury free, this is a quality side with time.
I think we're constantly looking at the straight comparison between them and Leinster, and Leinster are a few years ahead of Munster in their structure at the moment. They also have more players, I think, a higher sense of strength and depth, a better 23, a better 7 outside of that. So I think when you look at Munster's 15, their best 15 on the field, it's a class team. When you get to number 23 in it, it may not be quite as good. It's not quite as strong, and definitely not as strong as Leinster. So I also think at the start of the season it takes a period of time for Munster, because they don't have that strength and depth, to try and get up and running very quickly, and they consistently get up and running for the Heineken Cup, which they're going to do again, I think, here.
2.5 minutes of the first half remaining. Joey Carberry's penalty has sent Munster over to that forehand side of the field, just 5 metres out from the Gloucester 22. The ovation you would have heard as the two boys were talking was for Tommy O'Donnell, who didn't go off on the stretcher, was able to hop his way onto the medical cart. That left ankle, and the replays we were seeing on our monitor didn't paint a very nice picture at all. We wish him all the best and a speedy recovery. We will try and find out as to the nature of that injury throughout the course of the afternoon here on Off the Ball. It's another crooked throw from line out time. It's been very, very messy facet of the game so far. Neither side will be happy with that.
But there is quite a breeze, coming in. All the flags are flying in. Munster are definitely playing into that. So even hitting the tail, Woody, you're obviously have faced that challenge many a time. Hitting the tail.
I was well able to throw it crooked to the tail of the line-out. Yeah, I had that skill.
We're going to reset that scrummage. The two front rows are done. I think we're going to go to Stamford Bridge and Andrew Cheal with news of a goal update in the Premier League between Chelsea and Manchester United.
Chelsea 1, Manchester United 1. The equaliser coming from Anthony Martial. Chelsea had 3 attempts, 3 opportunities to get the ball clear. Luke Shaw fired it in from the left-hand side. Eventually Pogba let it fly from about 15 yards straight at Anthony Martial, whose first touch was perfect and second touch found the back of the net. It's Chelsea 1, Manchester United 1.
Andrew, thank you. You rejoin us at Thomond Park. 15 points to 3. Munster playing against 14. If you're just joining us in this Heineken Champions Cup game, Danny Cipriani shown a red card for a reckless high challenge. Shoulder making contact with the head of Rory Scannell.
Looks like CJ Stander's gone into open side with the reshuffle there.
Orno Bota going into number 8. 12 Trees has it and tries to dink one over the top. Instead he's kicked it straight into the arms of the retreating Darren Sweetenham, who did well. Now Healy joins the line, tries to bring some urgency to that Munster attack. Last 30 seconds of the opening half taken on by Duncan Williams. 2 tries to the good. Mike Healy and Reece Marshall with the try so far for Munster after that 10-all draw, remember, last week. Win this afternoon would put them in pole position, you feel, in the group, and in a very, very healthy and commanding position, taken on by Klein just on that Gloucester 10-metre line. Williams recycles quickly to Joey Carberry, and from his new position CJ Stander makes a metre or two, and then Carberry gets the ball away quickly and efficiently out into midfield to Goggin. Skips away from 1 or 2 challenges, but is trying to make a couple of yards illegally on the floor. The referee's right on hand, Alexander Ruiz, and he gives a penalty to Gloucester.
Looking at Ben Morgan there, Woody, I haven't seen him do anything. He actually cut Carberry down in a perfect technique that you'd hope your kids would exercise. But how is he of an English squad calibre based on today's performance?
We haven't seen anything based on today, because he took one pick from the back of the scrum, made about 5 yards, a kind of heavy plod. He, do you know what? He's a good player. He's a fine footballer as a number 8. He is not athletic as a number 8, but England have been playing around having a powerhouse in Billy Vunipola. Is what they've been used to. He's not that player. I mean, and so they've used Nathan Hughes, and he's gone for the autumn internationals as well. But but Morgan seems to be the guy that's next in line. But he's not dynamic, but he's big, he's capable, but he requires a lot of gas around the field for him to be able to be played.
Yeah, they're short of numbers in that department, of course. The absence of Vunipola and Hughes. He hasn't played a game for England since that World Cup game in 2015 against Australia. Stuart Lancaster's last game in charge. We know what a debacle that was. Again, it's a little bit sloppy from line-out time from Gloucester, but they've managed to get their hands on it. Heineken is over it and now hitting the line at speed. Gloucester bring play up to that Munster 22. Into midfield they go now. We're over the 40 minutes and it's Munster leading by 15 points to 3. A healthy advantage to take into that half-time team talk from Johan van Graan, who will be, I'm sure, looking for a little bit more cohesion and accuracy in terms of some of their set plays. Munster in the second half, if they are to go on and win this, potentially get a bonus point and close it out. As it is, they're looking to get in at 15-3 because Gloucester are bringing the fight to them inside their own 22. Braley tries to get them moving. Good tackle from Tadhg Byrne on Josh Heineken, who was carrying the ball at pace inside that Munster 22. And now they get it wide to Poledri, straight in front of the Munster posts, the open side, taking the ground. Ball's a little bit slow, 12-3s now. In it goes to Atkinson. Munster defensive line is well organised and good, and out of that line comes Duncan Williams. Very, very good tackle from the Munster scrum half, and he's turned it over, and that should be enough to get Munster into half time. It's a sloppy kick from Joey Carberry, finds its way over to touch on this near side, and into touch it goes, and there's a little bit of a fracas developing. Referee was quick to spot it, so too was Keith Wood, and our attention is drawn to a little huddle of 4 or 5 players just outside the Munster 22, and as quickly as it came about, so too it is calmed down, and it comes to nothing, and the players make their way into the dressing rooms at half time with Munster in a very healthy lead. 15 points to 3, 2 tries to the good in the opening 14 minutes. Mike Haley first of all, then Rhys Marshall from that driving line-out maul. But the big talking point of the opening 40 minutes in this match at Thomond Park is the red card shown to Gloucester fly half Danny Cipriani.
Well, I think when you see all the players walking off the field, and there was a bit of edge there, I don't quite know what started it, but I saw it very, very quickly. I also looked at Rhys Patchell. Rhys Marshall limping off very heavily, and had been for the last play. And I would be surprised, having watched him for the last couple of minutes of that play, that he'll come back out in the second half. I don't think he will. There's been a little bit of an edge to it. It has all been about the high shots. It has all been about the referee's interpretation of them. It has all been about Gloucester's lack of ability to lower their tackle, because for the last 3 or 4 plays the same tackle has been made. Yeah. It's a type of tackling. The referees don't like it. You can't tackle that way, end of story. If you continue to do it, we could be down to a team with 11 or 12 players playing at this stage. So I think Munster have been efficient. They were under a bit of pressure, a bit nervous for the first 15. I think they'll be very happy with where it is so far.
Liam? 100% agree. I just think there's a gulf in quality. I think, as we were talking in commentary, Munster are probably a little short yet of where they're going to end up in terms of this journey that they're on, but they're still miles ahead of Gloucester. I think that all they need to do is realise that the conditions, the wind is very much with them in the second half, to play it into the corners and just keep Gloucester, and I think their tries will come relatively easy. Nothing comes easy at this level, obviously, but I just think there's enough in what Munster can do. It's just going to score another couple of tries, and I think ultimately there's going to be a nice healthy margin between both. The only thing that will allow them in, if they start playing rugby in the wrong parts of the pitch, and if they, maybe because they're not as clinical in their accuracy, that they might just cough up a few opportunities to Gloucester. Beyond that, I don't see a difference.
Yeah, it's not about sevens rugby, it's about going, getting the win, getting the bonus points. They need to do all that sort of stuff, but they're not in a rush in which to do it. We will see Kevin O'Byrne coming on, I think, maybe, even if he wasn't injured, if Marshall wasn't injured from the very start. I think they might make that change with it, because this guy needs to have European experience when there's an injury listed hooker. So look, I think there's a lot still to see.
And looking at the bench as well, Albie Matheson, like the impact he's made in such a short time, like he is a quality player. So he is that's a real asset to have as well.
Okay, well, it's a case of job not quite done just yet, but it's managed the game, managed the expectation against the 14 of Gloucester in the second 40 minutes. Seems to be the consensus from Liam and Keith at half time, where it's Munster 15, Gloucester 3. Back for the second half very shortly indeed.
Yeah, great stuff there, Conor. We'll be back to Conor, Liam and Keith for the second half. So Munster very much in control, leading by 15 points to 3 at half-time. And in the other game in that pool, it's half-time between Cast and Exeter, and it's a very tight match. It is Cast 19, Exeter 19, but no shortage of talking points in the opening 40 or so minutes. It was a long 40 minutes, almost an hour long in the end, between Munster and Gloucester. But Munster out in front against 14-man Gloucester after Danny Cipriani was red carded. We've got a lot of response to that already on Twitter, on @OffTheBall, and on text as well. You can get in touch with us there. Don't forget as well, we have the next Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club coming your way live from the Olympia Theatre here in Dublin on Tuesday, November 13th. We will have an all-star lineup of Ireland and All Blacks legends ahead of the clash in Ireland and New Zealand the following Saturday, who will be revealing over the next few days. Get on to offtheball.com/events right now to get your tickets. It's the latest Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club. And remember, this event is for over 18s only. Visit drinkaware.ie. It is still Chelsea 1, Manchester United 1 in the Premier League. There are 72 minutes gone at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea took the lead on 20 minutes, an Antonio Rudiger header from a corner kick. But Anthony Martial equalised for United 10 minutes into the second half after a bit of a goal match scramble. A brilliant volleyed finish from Martial means it's all to play for. It's been a very, very open game at Stamford Bridge. Lots more to come from there and all the rest of the day's football as well. But we're going to take a quick break and then we're heading back to Thomond Park.
Munster versus Gloucester, live from Thomond Park.
On Off the Ball.
Galileo Figaro.
Hiya.
Freddie's right. Can you go a bit higher, Ivan?
If I go any higher, only dogs will hear me.
Try.
Galileo Figaro.
Hiya.
Here, come on. How many more Galileos do you want?
Calm down, Ivan.
There's only room in this band for one hysterical queen.
Next Wednesday on The Hard Shoulder, to mark the release of Bohemian Rhapsody in cinemas, Henry McKean is on the hunt for Ireland's biggest Queen fan.
So if you think you could be champion, break free and email me now on henry@newstalk.com.
The Hard Shoulder with Ivan Yates.
With Nissan.
Weekdays from 4 on Newstalk.
Who is Galileo anyway?
Vodafone Comedy Carnival returns to Galway this October bank holiday weekend. With 75 plus shows and over 100 great comedians: Dylan Moran, Sean Locke, Reginald D. Hunter, Jason Byrne, Rich Hall, Milton Jones, Jeannie Asheray, Joel Dommett, Free Starby, Al Murray the pub landlord, and yours truly, Terry Alderton. Who is he? Ha! Vodafone Comedy Carnival Galway, Tuesday 23rd to Monday the 29th of October. Tickets on sale now from VodafoneComedyCarnival.com. Ha ha! Get your tickets.
Something terrifying is coming to Tato Park, a new Halloween night experience. Tato Park Terrors. Are you brave enough for our 2 new scare zones, Tomb of Shadows and Project Zero? Can you handle the carnival? Now it's even scarier. Face your fears on the Cool Cullen coaster in the dark. Or scream your head off at our 5D cinema. Tato Park Terrors. Open this Saturday with special discounts. Adults and teens only. Book now at tatopark.ie.
The year is 1927, and the work is half done. This will be the core of the scheme, the power station at Ardnacrusher.
In 1927, ESB took a bold first step, harnessing the power of the Shannon to bring light and energy to the nation. Now ESB is leading the way to a clean energy future, powered by electricity, creating a brighter future for all. Find out more at esb.ie.
Bruce Betting Sportsbook, Casino and now Live Casino. Download the Bruce Betting app to see why for the Premier League, Bruce Betting are giving you more. With price boosts, live in-play betting, cash out and ACCA insurance. Make Bruce Betting your Premier League bookmaker. Bruce Betting, in-store, online and now on your phone. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
So you'll never guess what just happened to me at Applegreen.
You fill the car up with the quality fuel that saves you up to 4 cents a litre, reduces harmful emissions, and because it's advertised, helps keep our engine clean.
Yes, all that. Very good, yeah. And I bumped into Did you say save up to 4 cents a litre?
The revolution is Fuel Good from Apple Green, our most advanced fuel ever at no extra cost. Apple Green, low fuel prices, always.
I'm Alex Dunn from Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. I have just returned from Yemen, where conflict has torn the country apart. It's also decimated the health system, leaving many in urgent need of care. MSF is treating the wounded and fighting disease on both sides of the front line. But we need your help. Please make an urgent donation today. Free phone 1-800-905-509. That's 1-800-905-509. Or visit msf.ie. Thank you.
The Arnott's Home and Furniture event ends tomorrow. Don't miss out on the incredible closing offers across the home and furniture departments until tomorrow, including brands such as Christie and Stellar, with all you need to improve your home your way. Hurry, the Arnott's Home and Furniture event and our closing offers must end tomorrow. Interest-free finance available. Shop in store and online at arnotts.ie.
Government departments and agencies have been preparing for the impact of Brexit on citizens, communities and businesses here in Dublin and the Leinster region. To learn more about how your business can get Brexit ready, join us on October 25th, where representatives from government agencies will be on hand to share insights and information about available supports. This event is free, so to attend, register now at dfa.ie/Brexit. Getting Ireland Brexit Ready, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Want to add talent to your senior management team? Thepanel.com. We know the people you want.
Enjoy your independent time this Saturday. Books to say boo to. Ahead of the midterm break, Culture and Review guides you through the spooktacular books for children this Halloween. Best of the best. In Weekend, Paul Flynn at the Tannery explains what makes Ireland's tastiest food experience. And Mary Kennedy tells of the recipes that mean most to her. The Davy Diaries. Sport has got extracts from Davy Fitzgerald's new biography, and our Roald Dahl free book collection continues at Tesco. Irish Independent on Saturday. Take a fresh look.
Munster versus Gloucester, live from Thomond Park.
On Off the Ball.
They're queuing up here in Munster. And now they go out into midfield. Byrne is over it, taken into contact, 6 metres short. Williams goes to his right hand side, moves it on to Klein. A little bit slower this time for the Munster scrum off. Now it goes into midfield and Sweetenham, and he's got Conway outside, and Healy too, and there is the first try. And they were patient, and they were purposeful, and they were ruthless in the end. And it's a try for the Munster fullback, Mike Healy. Peter O'Mahony is taking the ball, and Munster get that driving maul going, and they're up to 5 metres, 4 metres, and they're very close. They're going to get over surely here. The crowd are on their feet even before they have touched down, but Munster get the second try of the afternoon. That is brilliant stuff from the pack of forwards. Really, really worked it so well.
Yeah, so that's the story of the scoreboard in the first half down at Thomond Park, where Munster lead Gloucester by 15 points to 3 at half-time in the European Champions Cup. But really, that is only half the story. Gloucester now playing with 14 men after Danny Cipriani was shown a red card on 29 minutes for a high tackle. Gloucester could well have had another man sent off just a few minutes later, but got away with it. They were also down to 14 earlier in the game for a yellow card, a complete lack of discipline at times. But back for second half, live and exclusive national radio commentary of Munster against Gloucester with Liam Toland, Keith Wood and Conor Morris in just a couple of minutes' time. At Stamford Bridge, it is Chelsea against Manchester United, and United have gone in front. They have come from behind to lead, and Anthony Martial is the man yet again. A brace for Martial. 10 minutes left at the Bridge. Chelsea 1, United 2. Was a brilliant counter-attacking goal. Juan Mata stealing in front of the Chelsea defence down on the right-hand touchline. Brought it inside, looked up, picked out a pass to Marcus Rashford, who then spotted Martial free on the edge of the area, and then a lovely touch from Martial, and he curled it past Kepa in the Chelsea goal. A brilliant counter-attacking move from United, and what a turnaround for Jose Mourinho's side, who now lead by 2-1. Football will be the focus for the afternoon once we're done with the rugby at around about 3 o'clock. Dan McDonald and Johnny Ward will join us in studio as always. Analysis from Stephen Kelly to come, and reaction from the managers in this game also. But Shane Hannon will be alongside me as well. How are you?
Very good, Nathan. Keeping well.
53106 is the text number for any happy United fans, though there are still 10 minutes to go. What else is happening?
Yeah, just to round you up on the rugby away from Munster's Pool 2. Pool 4 later on, of course, Ulster travelling to Racing 92. That's at 5:30. It's the first time Ulster will meet Racing. In fact, that's on the 4G pitch at La Défense Arena in Paris. Ulster will be without injured scrum half John Cooney, who has a shoulder problem. David Shanahan replaces Cooney. That's one of 3 changes made by head coach Dan McFarland. Prop Marty Moore comes in for Ross Kane, while Kieran Treadwell takes over from Alan O'Connor in the second row. The Racing lineup, of course, includes Ireland international Simon Zebo at full back. Also today in the Heineken Champions Cup in Pool 1, Wasps hosting Bath at 3:15. Also at that time it's Edinburgh against Toulon in Pool 5, and later on Saracens hosting Lyon. That's at 5:30 in Pool 3. In the European Challenge Cup a little later then in Pool 3, Connacht travelling to Sale Sharks. They got their campaign up and running, of course, last weekend as a brace of Kyle Godwin tries helped them to a win over Bordeaux at the Sports Ground. Caelan Blade captains their youthful side today at AJ Bell Stadium. Colm de Boutelaire makes his first start in the wing, and fullback Tiernan O'Halloran is back in the side after injury. Chris Ashton set to make his competitive debut for Sale, meanwhile, after a 7-week ban for a tip tackle. The Sharks making 5 changes to the side that secured a bonus point win against Perpignan last weekend. That game is underway at AJ Bell Stadium at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Bordeaux against Perpignan, the other game in that pool, gets underway later on at 6. In the Premier League then this afternoon, there's a host of games at 3 o'clock. Bournemouth hosting Southampton in the South Coast Derby. It's bottom side Cardiff hosting Fulham at 3. Manchester City against Burnley. Newcastle United hosting Brighton. Chris Hughton, of course, returning to his former club. West Ham hosting Spurs at the London Stadium. Wolves against Watford, and then later on Huddersfield Town against Liverpool is the 5:30 game. Huddersfield losing both of those fixtures against Liverpool 3-0 last season. In the Sky Bet Championship, Middlesbrough are top of the table this morning. A 2-1 win at Sheffield Wednesday helped them move above Sheffield United on goal difference. A result in from the early game today, Blackburn Rovers beating Leeds United by 2-1. Darragh Lenihan scoring, Irish international Darragh Lenihan that is, of course, scoring to put Blackburn 2-1 in the lead, and they held on to that lead. Finally, Nathan, in the Scottish Premiership, Hearts will be hoping to bounce back from their first defeat of the campaign. They face Aberdeen later. A second play third, Celtic host Hibernian at Parkhead. Both of those games are at 3 o'clock, as are the clashes between Livingston and Dundee. Motherwell hosting St Johnstone, and the tie between St Mirren and Kilmarnock.
All right, lots more to come from Shane throughout the afternoon. So in the live sport, it is Manchester United 2, Chelsea 1 at Stamford Bridge. There are 8 minutes remaining. United were 1-0 down after 20 minutes when Antonio Rudiger scored, but a brace from Anthony Martial has turned it right around. What a win that would be for Jose Mourinho's side. In the Champions Cup, in Munster's group, Cast have just gone in front against Exeter Chiefs. It is now 26-19 to the French side. In the last couple of moments, they have just scored a try, and in that game, Cast are also down to 14 men from about 30 minutes into that, so that would be quite a turnaround if Cast can beat a really highly rated Exeter side who only drew with Munster at home last weekend. But down in Thomond Park, of course, which is our main focus in the Heineken Champions Cup, it is Munster 15, Gloucester 3 points. First half tries from Mike Haley and Reece Marshall. Let's go back down to Limerick because Keith Wood and Liam Toland are alongside Conor Morris. And Keith, looking at the texts and the tweets that are coming in, everyone seems very, very split about this red card to Danny Cipriani, that the game is gone if we're going to be sending players off for an incident like that. Now, it wasn't as ferocious a collision as Jerome Kano and Jamie Roberts last week, but I guess if we spend all this time talking about lowering the tackle, there have to be pretty severe penalties when one of those tackles is made.
Well, I think so, Nathan. To be honest, we're kind of half split here as well. Look, I thought it was a yellow card when I saw it. But I know that the sentiment is that we have to get that tackle down. So I do understand why it's a red card, but I would have gone for yellow. I do think you need to have a little bit of interpretation yourself and belief in what the game is like, but we do need to eradicate this out of it. And if this is the way that World Rugby wanted to happen, it'll happen pretty quickly. Otherwise you'll have a lot of players off the field. And I will say, I think Gloucester's manner in which they're tackling is of a very standing up variety. If the referees don't like it, you can't do it. You can't argue the case with it. I also said at the time, Cipriani went over to apologise, which I thought was a big thing to do, because he was obviously very disappointed, and he is a man who attracts a huge amount of negative attention. So look, it's a tough day for him. I have sympathy for him without a shadow of a doubt. I do think Kino was much worse last week. I thought that was a more aggressive tackle.
All right, Conor, take it away.
Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, it's a debate which will rumble on and on. We've played 2.5 minutes of the second half. There's been a similarity to the restart of this half as there was to the first half and most of the opening 40 minutes. We've had a not straight line out, we've had a couple of drop balls, and it's as you were, 15 points to 3. A couple of switches in the offing. David Kilcoyne down beneath us looks as though he's going to come in, and the change in that Munster front row, which was highlighted by Keith just before half time, has indeed happened. Kevin O'Byrne is into that front row for Reece Marshall. It's well, it was a Munster ball, but there's been an early engagement at the scrum over on the Munster 10-metre line, so it's Gloucester ball. We're almost like we're resetting for the proper start of the second half. There's been so many mistakes and errors, and we're going to reset for another scrummage. The 2 tries coming from Mike Haley and Reece Marshall. If you're just rejoining us, 15 points to 3. Interestingly cast, as Nathan was saying, going well at home to Exeter, 26 points to 19. They too playing with 14 men. The side that were beaten away at Kingsholm last week by Gloucester, they just don't travel well, such is the cliche of French sides. 1 win in 24 away matches in European competition, but a different test at home. And the referee's got a little bit of sorting out to do between these 2 front rows.
It's kind of unusual. It's an incredibly dead start to the second half of a game. I mean, there was a cock up for the kick-off. I still think the referee is struggling a little bit, putting his stamp on the game, and it's a strange atmosphere, you know. And I was trying to say that just before half time. Playing against 14 players is difficult as well. You make adjustments to how you play, and does that destabilise actually what it is you're trying to achieve during the day, and that can make it very, very awkward.
Callum Braley feeds that Gloucester scrum, and he's picked it from the Channel 1 ball, and around the outside goes Tom Marshall, but he's unceremoniously dealt with from a Munster point of view and bundled into touch, much to the delight of the Munster faithful right in front of him over on that far side, just shy of the Munster 22.
Can I tell you, Darren Sweetenham, we watched at the start of last season, he made a couple of mistakes. Every time I see him play, I get really encouraged by a young guy who, rugby wasn't his first sport, and he's come into it. He learns all the time. He delayed long enough and used the touchline enough. He didn't make the tackle in that instance, but he made certain that Arno Botha was going to smash the guy in over, and actually has properly smashed him because he's gone over on his knee. Didn't quite see who that number was. It's on the far side of the field.
I think it's Tom Marshall, is it?
Yeah.
He's such a unit, Arno Botha. He's so destructive. But yeah, I agree with you with Sweetenham. We heard as early as pre-season that he scored a couple of tries in both the games they played down in Cork in pre-season, hit the ground running, scored and made a couple of tries on the opening day of the season here against the Cheetahs. He's been electrifying, and even when he stepped up to test level in the November series, when he did, he was so diligent in terms of his defensive play and his tactical awareness and nous, but he's just getting better and better, still only 25.
Yeah, he's a young player. I mean, he's learning in real time, and that can be very, very stressful, but it seems to work kind of comfortably.
And due to the attention being received for a Gloucester player over on that far side, we're going to have to wait a little bit further for this line-out throw on the far side. As Nathan was saying, the first 40 minutes actually took more like an hour, and we've already played almost 5 minutes of the second half, and it seems to have taken 10 or 15 minutes. Tom Marshall is back on his feet, but he doesn't look at all comfortable. New Zealander who's played a bit of rugby with the Crusaders and the Chiefs before finding his way to the Gallagher Premiership. And we're just watching on our monitor. The referee's he's in discussion with the physios and the medical officials over on that far. He just needs to move things on a little bit quicker, doesn't he?
Come on, take control, get on with the game.
But he's off the pitch.
Yeah.
Isn't that?
He's not interfering at all. And there's the slow hand clap, so that will tell you how everyone else around his fields. The second half has not quite started yet.
This obviously is again it's Munster's time to manage this sort of disruption and stuff. Look, Gloucester aren't going to threaten ultimately Munster's success or failure in their journey this season, but these are moments where you have to say, listen, hang on a second, ignore the referee, ignore Gloucester, ignore the crowd. What do we need to do for the next 5 minutes? Because this is not what we want to be doing, and manage it as best they can.
Well, I can just tell you, nobody wants to be doing this. And so the player is off the pitch. He's been driven around the back of the pitch. Get on with the game. Referee needs to take control.
There's There's a hint of impatience in you there.
Well, I'm here to watch a rugby match, actually.
And here we are, 45 minutes in, and a little bit of rugby is broken out in this second half, finally, thankfully. And it's a line-out which has been won by Munster, and they work it out into the open spaces for Mike Healy now, and he spots a little bit of a gap, and he's gone the circuitous route of making his way out of the Munster 22 there for Williams. And now Carberry has that little shimmy very, very close to the Gloucester defensive line, tried to grubber one through, but it came back off the shins of Banahan, and Banahan makes the tackle. Mismatch in terms of size and physique there, but Carberry presents the ball well at the base of that ruck, and John Ryan gets Munster moving again, just 2 metres outside their own 22. Williams, that was a little bit tight to Goggin, taken on by O'Mahony now. Williams once more, Bota, and he's tackled by the Gloucester captain Ed Slater. Ball is on the deck, and it's with Williams again. This time they go back inside the 22 to Healy, and he's looking to spot a gap here, and he's got support on the inside from O'Byrne, and now it's Tadhg, and Tadhg goes through the gears on the 10 metre, hacks one through, it's over the try line, there's 2 in chase, back goes the Gloucester player. Andrew Conway couldn't get there. Tadhg, what awareness and pace and invention and creativity from the big second row forward, and that almost produced a third try of the afternoon. That was scintillating stuff.
I'm telling you, every second row who plans to play for Ireland in the November series will be shaken to the core. You see the pace, the ability, the quality of that man in open space. He's adding so many aspects to what we expect the second row to be doing. Quality play, and he didn't lose much distance when Andrew Conway was running alongside him.
Could have kicked that a little bit less.
It was all
could have taken a tiny bit off that kick. It was actually the right thing to do. It just bounced a couple of times too many, but it was. But
he also did it in full flight.
Yeah,
he didn't check his run at all.
And it all started with another typically brilliant support line as Munster broke through the tackles. Healy instrumental in the initial break, and then, as Keith said, it was easily 1.5 meters, if not 2 meters, overcooked by the big second row.
I love seeing forwards kick the ball.
There's one of the backs kicking it now, Joey Carberry. It's been collected by Sweetenham, who dances his way along that far touchline and made very, very good use of the space. Taken into contact by James Cronin. Hint of crossing there, but not given from the referee. Munster are happy to carry on as the aerial route from Carberry. Crossfield looking for Conway. Into touch it goes. And that was some nervy defending by Woodward all the way back there. Misjudged the flight of the ball, didn't get to it. It was allowed to bounce right inside its own 5 metre line, and it's out for a line out on this near side for Gloucester, and they've been shaky out of touch. It wasn't Woodward, in fact it was the scrum half, Callum Braley, back there.
It's a lovely kick by Carberry. That is really a Munster thing, a Thomond Park thing, playing the game in the right areas of the field.
Change at scrum half and at centre. Rory Scannell's going off, Duncan Williams is going off, Albie Mathewson is coming in, and Sammy Arnold into the midfield for Munster as well. Gloucester defensive line out from 5 metres. There was a Munster hand in there, just knocked it forward.
Munster doing enough, if they're not actually getting on the ball in the line out, the Gloucester line out, they're doing enough to completely disrupt what Gloucester want to achieve once they have the ball, which is almost as good, and sometimes in that position would it even be better.
Well, it can. You sometimes you don't want to win the ball, you just want to disrupt their ball. You know, you don't want messy ball on your own side. You want to put them under huge pressure. You want them to have to fight to get their way out of there. The pressure is all on Gloucester now. There's been a little slew of changes. So there's guys who want to be starting in all these big games. They're getting their chance now, and you have the very sweet hands of Albie Mathewson coming in. So
but it's his activity around,
it's energy.
But the players around feed off that, because they have to have a different tempo. It's a little like when Owen Redden broke into the Irish side. All of a sudden, this electric scrum half forced Irish players to react differently.
Changing that front row as we await the feed into the Munster scrummage on the Gloucester 5 metre line. Dave Kilcoyne, as was touted, replacing James Cronin. And for what feels like a dozen times in this game, the referee's not happy with the two front rows. He's going to ask them to reset again. There's lots of movement before the ball is even anywhere near being ready to be fed in by the scrum half. What have we played? 9 minutes of the second half. It's as you were in terms of the scoreboard. The 15 of Munster against the 14 of Gloucester, leading by 15 points to 3. Down go the front rows, and the inevitable straight arm raised by Alexander Ruiz, indicating a Munster penalty from that scrummage.
Big pressure again, good focus. You've put a new prop on, new hooker on. It still looked rock solid. Munster will want to go again and again. They'll be looking to go for a penalty try, or they'll be looking to push them over from a try. This is an opportunity when you have a game that you should be winning, which I think we'll say that Munster should. We don't want to put the kibosh on it early, but they should be winning this game. They want to extract the most they can, which is quality play under pressure, blooding some extra players, giving them proper Heineken Cup experience.
So up goes the roar as Albie Mathewson, the New Zealander, feeds the scrummage, and out goes the arm of the referee to indicate a penalty coming here for Munster. So a little bit of a shot to nothing. Oh, they're going to be in surely. Carberry for the line. Brilliant. Munster's fly half had two men to his left hand side. There was an overlap on the wide channels, and Carberry didn't need one. He went in between bodies, and just 3 or 4 metres to left of the Gloucester uprights, Joey Carberry gets his first European try in Munster colours, and he opens up a 17-point advantage at Thomond Park with a conversion attempt to come.
Look at the pass from the scrum half, right on the money, perfect in many ways. But Carberry, maybe he's conscious of, let's make the conversion as easy as I possibly can. If I score it, it's closer to the post.
Oh, there's no need to pass that. They all had to spread. Any one of three could have scored. It was a lovely little pullback, great pass by Mathewson. I like the manner in which Munster have been trying to play all season. I know they haven't done very well. Some of the parts of the play has been excellent. At the start of the season they made some mistakes, but the handling at 9 with Mathewson, 10 with Carberry. We were watching a game here a few weeks ago, and it was as if the quality of the passing was infectious to the guys outside it. It was just getting better passes that went along the line. You have more time to make the pass, you have more time to make your own decisions, and that's the quality that we're seeing at the moment.
Absolutely no problems from the kicking tee in terms of the conversion, and 51.5 minutes in Limerick it now reads Munster 22, Gloucester 3. 3 tries to the good, and Munster have stolen the ball here again, have they? We're going back for a previous offence,
knock-on,
which was a knock-on.
Actually, some of the work at the breakdown has been very good. I'm going to say that from a Munster perspective. I think they were still well off the mark in the first half. They were a little bit more clinical here in the second half. I don't know whether it's just this thing has totally been taken out of the tail of Gloucester, but they are dragging their legs around the field. They're just not comfortable with this as an idea. I think they know they've the game lost, and they're going to make a change at scrum half, because Ben Velicott is coming in, and also wearing number 19, a man that we haven't mentioned, Gerbrand Cobbler, coming back to Thomond Park, and all the talk pre-game was that he would know the calls and it would be very difficult at line-out time to prevent him from causing serious damage, and then as it was, he was dropped for Ed Slater. Indeed, and maybe whether that was to try and take some of the sting out of the tail again and all that chat. That was a hard period of time last year, I think, both for him and for the club. Wasn't handled particularly well.
Grobler is replacing Ed Slater.
There's no doubt about his impact though when he did play. If you can park all the other peripheral stuff, he does create an impact. I'd expect him to throw his weight around a bit and actually just see the bind again.
Yeah, they're still talking about that bind. That is the under the leg bind from Peter O'Mahony.
He's changed it now. He did start with his arm underneath the prop in front of him, then it's gone across the shoulder of the second row inside him, which I don't know. Is that the kind of thing that you penalise it, or do you say to him? I heard Brian O'Driscoll on Off the Ball on Friday night saying, look, if the referee's wise, he might just say, look, I've seen it, we're conscious of it, it's not a massive thing, don't do it. It's against the laws.
Yeah, but we don't know whether it's a massive thing. We don't know whether it destabilises, or if there's nothing wrong in doing it, it shouldn't be against the law. So it's great scrum from Munster there.
Well, something's having an impact in that scrum. It was very, very good from Munster. It's Gloucester ball though. They've managed somehow to get it out, and 12-3 gets his pass away. Munster rush defence was up at a rate of knots, but Gloucester retained it. But now there's Munster bodies over the ball. They're going to turn this over. It's going to be another turnover penalty. Really good work, Sammy Arnold this time. And Albie Mathewson is quickly in on top of the ball, and he's just looking to step up the tempo here, really. 53 minutes into the second half, 22 points to 3, and Munster, you feel now, can go for the jugular.
I think they should go for the jugular. Gloucester look miserable and petulant, and I think there'll be a bit more edge in the game, maybe, because guys, temper is not great.
To be fair to Gloucester, they did execute that little out the back door passing. In many ways, it was the best passage of accuracy they had. The only problem is they ran out of defenders or attackers. And look, they didn't resource the ultimate ball receiver.
I just think when you look at this is, I know it's tough because they're down to 14 players, but this is a top 4 team in the England Premiership. You can't be putting up the white flag so readily,
Well, that was the accusation levelled at Wasps last week, and it wasn't a great week really for the Gallagher Premiership sides, with the exception of Newcastle, of course, down in Toulon. But it's Munster ball with Albie Mathewson just on the 22. He gets it into Carberry and move it away to Conway at pace, who's come in off his wing. Mathewson, quick delivery, flat delivery to Carberry, to Healy. He's got Sweetenham outside him. He must have known he was there. Oh, that's ridiculous from Carberry. Little pop pass from the wrong side, back behind his back, and he almost got Sweetenham away, and they're starting to delve into that box of tricks. Carberry in particular, whose dander is up, having got his try. Now Tadhg Byrne to Carberry, holds on to it for a fraction of a second, and that allows the space for Arnold, and Arnold is in for the try, and they have the bonus points, and they're on their feet once again around Thomond Park. They finish, and the try will be accredited to Sammy Arnold, but the architect of all that was genius about that was Joey Carberry.
There's two parts of that. There's Mathewson again. His pass was so long, so perfect, but it was one of those passes where you could probably you could wait to go around the player to catch it. It was sort of dead in air for a while. It was brilliant, and it was a lovely reverse flip around the back from Carberry. He was stuck, he was under pressure, he absolutely put energy back into it. So that was magic. What he actually did for the try was he took his time, he delayed, and he gave a soft pass, and in fairness to Arnold, he read it really well. It's a totally different type of skill. That was just fantastic.
And Carberry waits and is poised, and he will endeavour to kick a further 2 points. What is already a very, very comfortable advantage is just growing wider and wider, and the task facing Gloucester is getting bigger and bigger. It's very much mission impossible now for the 14 men of the Cherry and Whites, because they trail by 29 points to 3. We've played 56 minutes.
A word for Tadhg Byrne as well, who was instrumental. The fact that
the
wraparound, he had the ability as your second row, back row player to enter into heavy traffic, sweat a couple of Gloucester defenders and release it out the back door. That's a great skill that lots of second rows don't have, lots of players don't have.
He's got every string to his bow, and he's back doing his day job, which is taking the restart from that Gloucester kick-off. Munster have hoisted one over to this near side, looking for the aerial route. Andrew Conway was underneath it, couldn't quite grasp it, and Gloucester have it on halfway in around the middle of the pitch, and they come back to the left hand side to 12 trees. Into contact he goes, just shy of the halfway line.
Jeez, that's a hot potato there. I don't want it. That shows you an insight into Gloucester, what they're thinking.
Munster up very quickly, a little bit too quickly. John Klein made a thunderous tackle, but they're offside.
Big fan of John Klein as well. He goes through a huge amount of work, and it's, to be able to have a kind of hefty lump like him in the second row, who's still, he's pretty powerful, but he gets through a huge amount of work, and then you can have the other kind of lightweight guy. I always go back to the Munster team that I played with here, having Mick Galway, who was again a bit of a lump.
Good. I thought you were going to say Donal Lennon.
No, I actually played against Donal Lennon. It's very disturbing for me.
As did I.
But you had John Langford with him. John Langford was this rangy athlete who could do a lot, and there's a better balance with it.
And Stephen Archer is in the meantime for John Ryan. Yeah, we've so many combinations in that second row, and then it's about utilising one potentially at 6 in the back row. But the Munster defensive line this time is up very quickly again. Sammy Arnold with a tackle. This time they were onside. They're making life very difficult for the Gloucester players to get any kind of clean ball. There's absolutely no daylight in that defence so far. Banahan is trying to barge his way through and go route one, and they recycle with Honeck up to that Munster 10-metre line. In quickly it goes to Velicott, the replacement scrum half, and out into midfield, and Joey Carberry this time comes through and lends his shoulder to the wheel in terms of the tackle count and brings his Gloucester opponent down just inside that Munster half of the field. That is what the prerequisite now, having put themselves in a unassailable position at 29 points to 3, to maintain the discipline and the work rate and push on from here when opportunities arise, as they will against the tiring and somewhat dishevelled looking Gloucester 14, who can't quite make their way up to that Munster halfway line. They're having to work very, very hard for yardage here, such as the commitment to the tackle, epitomised there by Peter O'Mahony, who was in very strongly on the New Zealander Hoylett, who's had a decent game in terms of ball carrying, but very little reward for it. Just that one penalty for their efforts so far from the long since departed Danny Cipriani. Red carded in the first half, and they've spilled that forward, but I think Munster were offside and they've tapped and gone quickly here, and they do get up to the 10-metre line. Billy Twelvetrees has had to juggle that after another big Munster tackle came in, but he did manage to hold on to it, and it's back on the Gloucester side eventually to Woodward, and they spin it wide to this near side. Munster hunting in packs, tackling in ones and twos. Yeah, there's no way through that. Looked like an accidental offside. We're going back for an initial penalty, I think, for Munster offside somewhere around midfield on the 10-metre line.
That's a bad call by the referee, because once the player runs, he said it wasn't 10, once the player runs 5 yards and you run 5 yards with him, you can make the tackle, and it didn't. So again, we're just coming back to not wanting to give the referee a hard time all the time, but you know, pressure counts in different ways in different matches. This is a high standard. You need a level of consistency and certainty with the with the laws. As it goes to a screen there with Conor Murray and Farrell standing side by side, very dapper in their number ones.
I'd argue about the tie knot a little bit, but
it's a poor tie of the knot in fairness by Conor Murray.
It's no Windsor tie knot, but Klein has gone off. For me, I think he's the most important player for all the Carberries and Tyke Burns. He, I think, is that piece of the jigsaw that just imposes a culture on the opposition and gives a bit of freedom to build on what you were saying about Langford and Galway. But I think he's of enormous importance
in terms of just that bit of grunt and ballast in there, is it? Or
I think they're all a piece of the jigsaw. We're beginning to get more pieces now, and it's beginning to look like a full picture. Not on this performance, and we're hoping that this is the start of it for better things coming ahead. But you need the full jigsaw. We've only had a bit of a muddle for a while.
Gloucester have got their hands on possession inside the Munster 22. It's been quite a while since they found themselves down in this position. 12-trees now, felt he was illegally tackled, but the ball was knocked on in the tackle, so it's a knock-on advantage here for Gloucester.
Sam Ireland is some boyo in heavy traffic, isn't he?
It's a penalty.
The referee's come back for an initial.
But our focus in commentary has been heavy on Munster, and partly is because Gloucester are not giving us anything to talk about.
Yeah.
Apart from the negative stuff and the tackling and that. There's a reasonable phase in the last couple of minutes here, but they're not presenting us an opportunity to reflect on what they're doing.
No, I think they get a chance here in a 5-metre line out. I would find it hard at the moment, and I'm not trying to go with this in entirely Munster bias, and of course I'm from Munster, I'm going to some degree, but there isn't a whole lot to shout about from Gloucester. You know, there's very few players who've stood out and said, God, you know what, he's made a big impact today. They seem to be going through the motions in a lot of cases.
And Henry Walker is going through the motions of trying to find out what is the line-out call, and in the meantime they're going to make another switch. Mark Atkinson is being withdrawn and Owen Williams will come in. He was the replacement fly half on the bench. They were down so many numbers last week against Cast that they had to make up the numbers really on the bench, in terms of they didn't have an orthodox back rower, nor did they have enough forwards, but they're trundling forward through the forwards now, very close to that Munster line, having worked the line out pretty well. There's another advantage coming here. Munster need to be careful in terms of repetitive offences in the eyes of the referee, who's been pedantic enough to pull them up on something like that, irrespective of what's on the scoreboard, nor should that matter. They're 2 or 3 metres short and looking to drive their way over the Munster line here to try and get some kind of a foothold back in this game. 62 minutes in, Munster leading by 29 points to 3, but their try line is under real threat here, and Gloucester have got in for their first try, and it is the former Munster man, Gerbrand Gobler, who comes up with a try. The South African has hit back against his former employers.
I think Munster will be very disappointed with that. I think the discipline from the halfway line, they gave away a succession of penalties. I think 4-5 in total in that last period of play. It's a soft score to give away. They now need to get back onto the game, get back into the Gloucester half, just focus for the remaining whatever number of time, 15 minutes, 17 minutes that's left.
You're at that little juncture in the game where you've scored 2 tries, there's only a quarter of the match left, and there's a flurry of substitutions, and all of a sudden your concentration and your focus just drops off a level or two. 29 points to 8 as Billy Twelvetrees lines up the conversion attempt, and it's good, so they're into double figures. And as Keith says, we've about 16-17 minutes or thereabouts of this game to play. It's Munster 29, Gloucester 10.
12 threes or 36, as Jordan Murphy is calling 36 when they played side by side in Leicester.
I'm just watching the slow motion replay. It was a decent reach of that right arm, long limbed Gerbrand Gobler. And Kieran Knight has come into that Gloucester front row as we await Joey Carberry's restart. It goes a little shorter this time. Conway's underneath it. Doesn't quite manage to get his hands on it. Instead it was Tom Savage. Remember, he was binned in the first half. Velicott gets them moving through the hands. They go from Williams, and Munster steal it. Bota in there.
It just got caught in a clamp.
Mathewson, CJ Stander. Munster straight in front of the Gloucester posts, just between the 10-metre line and the 22, and now Arnold flings one wide to Goggin. He's got 2 to his right hand side. One of them is the skipper Peter O'Mahony, and keeping the width on the near side is Conway. Back inside they go at first receiver. It's Tyg Byrne. Gets away from Savage. He just makes a yard or two through the tackle. Carberry had that channel outside and blocked off by 1 or 2 Gloucester defenders who'd come up pretty quickly in the line. Just has the awareness to make the space with those dancing feet. They've got overlap on the outside. If they can work it quickly, Arnold just couldn't quite get that fluency of pass and get it away quickly enough. They had 2 to the left hand side. There was nobody really at home for Gloucester. There's more tries here in the offing for Munster if they can just manufacture them over the course of the last 15 minutes or so. Taken on by Kilcoyne. First real carry from him, having been introduced for James Cronin. Now Carberry again. At close quarters was O'Mahony, and then Sweetenham, and then that's gone off a Gloucester arm. Illegally so. It's for a deliberate knock on, and it's a Munster penalty just outside the 22, which Carberry will deliver down into the Gloucester 5-metre line or thereabouts.
What I like from Carberry is that willingness to wait till the last second before he makes the pass. Can I just say that one piece of law that is a penalty I hate, because I think it's overplayed where the ball is knocked in the tackle as if it's a deliberate one. I mean, what are you supposed to do? It's one of those, it's one of those things I just find frustrating.
Line-out ball has been collected, and Munster are off with that driving maul, the kind of maul that set up the try for Reece Marshall. The second of the afternoon in the first half. There's a Gloucester player or 2 on the floor, and now they go through the hands, and they're going through the tackles. Dan Goggin almost managing to wriggle himself free. That was quick from Mathewson, quicker again from Carberry, and in for the 5th try of the afternoon goes Andrew Conway. It's becoming easier and more routine now for Munster. They're finding the gaps, they're finding the spaces, and now everyone wants a piece of the action, and the latest to get his name on the try score sheet is Andrew Conway.
Well, it's again the cause and effect. You've got the scrum half comes in, knows exactly, but everyone is feeding off the pace he's setting on that re-release of the ball from the breakdown, and that's where the Gloucester defenders simply can't get back into position and come back up off the line, which gives the outside backs an opportunity to look at space and simply target it and say the ball is coming. I can guarantee it's coming at the pace I want it, the accuracy I want it. All I need to do then as an outside back is to pick where the space is and run into it.
It was a beautiful pass from 9, And a lovely little, we thought, and everybody went ballistic about it in the UK about Cipriani last week, who caught a ball standing still and just kind of pulled it back as if he did it lackadaisically and did it well for the scoring of a try. Carberry just did the exact same thing, no fuss, no issue, lovely play.
Replaces number 15, Mike Haley. As we watch the replay of the try, JJ Hanrahan has been introduced for Mike Haley. Very warm reception and ovation from the Thomond Park faithful. Very popular player in these parts already. Early in his Munster career, here come Gloucester for the first time, running nice lines and putting the ball through hands and finding those spaces in the Munster rearguard, and they've taken themselves up to the threshold of the 22 on this occasion. Carried on at pace by Kieran Knight. Taken on by Williams, out into midfield, and space here for Banahan. Inside the 22, across comes Joey Carberry.
What was Banahan doing?
He seemed to take his time to get off that standing start. He received it fairly flat-footed, and there's a little bit of afters between Carberry and Banahan. Andrew Conway was on hand to lend his support to his fly half. Meantime, it's Paul Edry, who at open side flanker this afternoon has had a pretty good game for Gloucester. Difficult afternoon for him, such has been the course of the game. Now 12 trees, delayed the pass, pops it over. They've got numbers here, they're in for a second try. Easy in the end for Jason Woodward to run in Gloucester's second try of the afternoon, and that will be a big disappointment, I'm sure, for Johan van Gran and his backroom staff at how easily it started over on that far side 4 or 5 phases ago, where they found gaps and soft shoulders. Munster guilty now on this near side of just switching off and not numbering up.
Exactly, Connor, total switch off. A kind of rush up when you can see, like we're watching it from here, they're doing this constant pull back and wrap around, which is fine, but rushing up on the guy who's wrap around, the guy who is wrapping around within Gloucester is not someone like Tyg Byrne who can dummy wrap around and go it. It's a guy standing still looking to pull it back. Munster players been sucked in by players they shouldn't be. It's a very disappointing score.
12 trees from a very difficult angle. He shaped that from left to right, the old fade in golf as we call it, but he hasn't quite faded it enough to sneak inside that left hand upright. It remains 36 points to 15.
It's a good play, a good pass from 12 trees. He saw where all the Munster players had gone. He floated the ball in over the top. It was a fine play, actually the best piece of play that we've seen from Gloucester today.
70 minutes on the watch now. 10 minutes for Munster to kick on and lay down a little bit of a marker in this pool, which we venture will be very, very tight right up to the third week in January. It'll probably go to match day 6 to sort out the placings. Those 2 points at Sandy Park will prove very, very important, you think, over the course of time.
Equally among that, you don't want to let Gloucester get back into the game. You don't want to get them to score another 2 points. You want to put as many points on the board as you can. It's going to be very tight at the end. Don't give a sucker an even break.
They've run in for a couple of fairly soft tries. 2 more, of course, takes them into bonus point territory, which will be a huge reward given the fact they've played so long with 14 men, and they've been absolutely, and they're on the counter attack here, and Munster are a little bit ragged and broken field. That's a really good retreating tackle. Is it Joey Carberry over there right on the far side, who knew he had to get back and make that tackle? Darren Sweeten was over. I'm pretty sure it was Carberry.
It was Carberry, and
that was good pace.
The games of inches there. He had maybe an inch or so to catch that jersey. If not, it was a definite try, which then makes it a very interesting finish.
Now this is where the leadership of Munster has to take over. Give the rest of the players a rollicking. This is not what's going to happen. No, think smart, defend smart, get out of dodge. It's one of those parts that we say that when Munster score, when any team scores, the score is over when you're back in the opposition half. You have to get out of your own half and start playing again. It's that lack of concentration. You're too excited from having had the score. The game is won, kind of drifting a bit.
And it's a Gloucester line out, 10 metres out from the Munster try line. It's bubbled around again, and Joey Carberry's made another absolutely huge, colossal hit in midfield there, and he stayed on the floor for a second or two. Now he's retaken his place in that defensive line. He's had a wonderful game all around, Joey Carberry, this afternoon, but his side are on the defensive now, taken on by Kieran Knight.
It's another penalty as well against Munster.
Shot to nothing potentially here. Munster's defensive line is well set. They've numbered up on that far side, 3-on-3. Ball is juggled by Banahan. 7 metres out. Can they move it a little bit quicker? In it goes this time to Gareth Evans, who's come into that back row position. Fella caught quickly, taken on by Williams. No support on the inside, stolen by Sammy Arnold, but the referee playing a long advantage quite correctly. And back we go for the Gloucester penalty.
There's quite a lot of penalties starting to build up, which again is a further insight into where Munster are in terms of their headset.
Well, attitude is not good enough at the moment, and this could be a very disappointing end to the game. They're still going to win the game.
They're switching off, and now they're trying to just refocus themselves in defence. Gloucester have lost that forward as much as anything. Then it's gone forward off the referee has called Gloucester penalty. Initially it looked like a just messy ball and a knock on, but he's seen a penalty in there. Gloucester thought about going quickly.
It was from that. I think it was a knock on from Munster and a Munster player playing it.
It was, but was it not knocked on before that?
Oh God!
You know, it was like the ball came out of Gloucester's
from Gloucester's side.
Forward, so one knock on, the second knock on, then a penalty. Yes, you revert to the first one because there's no play in between it. It's 2 seconds. Pinball. Sorry, my level of intolerance is beginning to show yet again.
Well, they're in front of the post here. They thought about the scrum. Instead they're going for the line out over on that far side, and it's been kicked into touch by Owen Williams, and an opportunity here for Gloucester to find a way to manufacture a third try, and if they get 3 their tails will be up and they'll come hunting a fourth. 36 points to 15. We've only got 6 or 7 minutes of normal time remaining. Here's the line out throw. And again it's loose. It's gone through one set of hands to the back, and it's Gloucester ball 7 metres out from the Munster try line. Into midfield they go. Tyburn tried to effect the tackle but didn't quite get there. Mathewson did instead, and now 12-3 spinning just 2 metres shy of the Munster line, right in front of the posts. Munster counter-rucking. It's slow ball, it's messy ball.
Scrum half trying to milk a penalty there after falling
got
over.
Knocked backwards. There was a dramatic flailing arms up in the air in front of the referee. Didn't give the penalty, and now it's 2 metres out. And they get the latch on, and the referee seemed to be indicating yet another penalty, of which there's been far too many from a Munster point of view. Now can they find a way through? They look for the gap in Owen Williams, but he's wrapped up by 2 or 3 Munster tacklers. He's got his knee on the floor. They're looking for a choke tackle and a turnover ball. They're not going to get it, Munster. It's back on the Gloucester side.
Well, it has to be a yellow card for Munster for persistent infringement, if that's what it is.
Now they put some oxygen on the ball. 12-3. He's got 2 on this near side, all the way over the top. Really good pass, and back inside, and they've scored a try, but the referee is going back for yet another infringement.
Well, that has to be a yellow card. I'm just saying, when the play was playing on, JJ Hanrahan came out of the line when he shouldn't have for that wraparound again. You know, I just feel as if their head has gone out of the game. The atmosphere on the ground is you know, people are happy because they won, but it's a bit negative.
And the Irish management team have just departed.
They've seen enough.
But if you decompartmentalise the game into 10-minute sections, like Munster have given away 6 penalties in the last 10-12 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that's an enormous.
They wouldn't want to be giving away that number in a game.
Correct. Yeah, single figures in the entire game. So
they've conceded 9 in their own half of the field over the course of the 75 minutes. These stats are telling us on the screen in front of us, and it's just taken all the impetus out of the game. Now Gloucester, to their credit, have persevered where many a team might have run the white flag up the pole a long time ago. They haven't done that, and they're coming searching for a bonus point potentially. They've a lot of work still to do to try and get it, but they've won their line out over on that far side.
That's a great defensive maul by Munster.
Gloucester digging ferociously in around that breakdown. The maul has long since gone to ground, and they've managed to work it out. And they're having to really try and eke out a metre or two. It was Kieran Knight, now it's Banahan, and they're on the Munster 5 metre line, but they just can't really make inroads, and they're looking to keep it in the pack of forwards here. Inside the final 5 minutes, Munster have just gone to sleep a little bit, and the noise around Thomond Park trying to resuscitate their team here as they hang on try and prevent this third try, which would be a disappointment for Johan van Graan, and certainly something that the Munster players won't want to go through in the video review on Monday morning. Taken on then by Knight again, who's carried well since he's been introduced. Vellacott gets them moving again, and they're still on that 5 metre line, this time with Gareth Evans. And now they're only 2 metres short. Arno Botza with the tackle. Vellacott wants it back a little bit quicker. He feels that there's a Munster body on it, and he has half a case. Alexander Ruiz happy to let play continue. Huge groans around Thomond Park, and the referee's getting some advice from his official on this near side. And what's the decision here?
His official has told him to look upstairs to see that it was a deliberate knock on. He's going to catch the ball, he doesn't catch the ball. That's what we were talking about a little bit earlier on. But my God almighty, I know this is a European Cup game. It seems to be going on for about 4 days already. It is just, it's becoming painful, and the officiating is just being, it's a little bit tedious.
And it's approaching 3 o'clock as far as I know. We kicked off at 1 and we're not done yet.
So he goes to catch it, he doesn't catch it. So for me, that's a knock-on.
No, I actually would say that he has to make a decision whether he's preventing that ball reaching its target, and in doing so there's no way he's going to catch that ball.
He's getting a yellow card now anyway. So the referee was standing looking at him, he thought it was a knock-on. There's a person incensed here in front of us.
Sammy Arnold will finish out the game in the sin bin. 77 minutes on the watch. We'll restart with another Gloucester penalty, so the sanction had to come for repeat offending. As you can gather, we're not quite convinced that that was the correct time to brandish the sanction of a yellow card. It may have happened,
it should have happened
a lot
before.
sooner. Yeah. 36-15 inside the final 2 or 3 minutes, and Gloucester, it seems like an age they've spent on this Munster 5 metre line, or a couple of metres inside it, which they are now, 3 metres short of the line. Tadhg Beirne goes in to effect the tackle. He's got one hand on that. He doesn't turn it over, but he slows it down considerably, and now they're charging for that Munster try line again. Quick ball here will present all manner of opportunities and potentially a third try, and that is exactly what Gloucester have got, and they're good value for it as well. And it's Ben Morgan on a week when he's been recalled to the England squad who gets Gloucester's third try. 36 points to 20, and a conversion to come, which has been taken very quickly by Billy Twelvetrees. It finds its target, and suddenly, a couple of minutes on the watch still to play, Gloucester will fancy their chances at getting a bonus point.
Well, not just a bonus, like, it's outrageous last 5-10 minutes.
Yeah. But like I have to say, I think Gloucester have shown a sense of energy, more energy running back into their own half there than they have in the previous 5 minutes, and they've scored 2 tries. Munster have drifted off the attitude that's required at this level, and it's been a very poor 10 minutes for Munster.
Good line and good pace and good strength from Ben Morgan to dot down their third try of the afternoon.
There's a lot in it. A converted bonus point try gives them 2 points because they finish within 7.
Yep. And when you consider the course of the game and the fact that Munster have played for the lion's share of it against 14, I mean,
stupid tackle, absolutely daft from Stephen Archer. High tackle, no chance of actually making the tackle properly.
But that's why, if the sanction against that type of behaviour is very severe, it has to force coaches and selection of players. It would change an entire...
I mean, for me that tackle qualifies as just stupidity.
On the basis of stupidity, he should be severely punished.
This game is going to go on for another 15 minutes because the referee has gone upstairs again.
We'll have a look at it on the replay. The arm is around.
Could be a yellow card. Probably should be a yellow card. Should be a yellow card, yeah.
Or worse, like, it's so bad.
Yeah,
it's so
bad. Definitely a yellow. It's
or worse.
It's Ben Morgan is the player being caught around the neck by Archer.
If nothing else, Munster are going to win the game, which is great, and World Rugby is going to wake up to these types of tackles and the technique around it.
Yeah, I think that's different from the ones in the first half. Like that just drives me to distraction.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, do we wait for a really serious injury to arrive because of this? I'm with you on a lot of it. I'm just in
Munster mode at the moment. I'm just incredibly frustrated with the last few minutes, and that when you do get into the half, what do? Do you have to tell the players, listen, no penalties all the time? You know, that's just, it was just.
Well, the referee is
yellow card.
Yep.
From Archer's point of view, the Irish management left before that. Assuming they don't.
I can guarantee you they'll watch
the magic
it on
of
video.
technology. Yeah, they'll probably see it. They're probably seeing it in real time now, wherever they are in the car on the way back up the road to Dublin. But they're going to finish with 13. I mean, it's such a scrappy, infuriating game. It doesn't feel like a game in which we've seen 8 tries and it's 5 tries to 3 in favour of Munster, who've been by far the more superior team. They've just switched off for a good 20 minutes in the game.
Yeah. We're going very slowly towards 80 minutes, but I don't know what it is in the real world. The first half was nearly an hour.
Well, we're over 2 hours on airtime for sure. Yeah. So Gloucester line out on that far side. Do they have time to manufacture anything further in this game?
Well done.
Bonus point try and more potentially.
Burn turnover, game over.
The 80 minutes
have
elapsed. We're into the red. The clock reads 80. It's back to Tyke Burnham with his left boot. He just hacks it into touch.
Carberry.
One of the Munster players, I think it's Dan Goggin, is it?
Yeah.
He's going to need some attention. The man of the match has been announced locally is Joey Carberry, who's gone over to see if his outside centre is okay. The ball is into touch. There is a sense of relief around Thomond Park. The final score in an 8-try game where we finish at 14 against 13 is Munster 36, Gloucester 22, and so many talking points and so much to take for both sides, particularly Munster, I feel, over the course of the 80 plus minutes.
Look, for me, it's an unsatisfying day. I think Munster have got the win, which is very important. They stopped Gloucester getting a bonus point, which is very important. I'm very worried about the injury we've just seen there to Dan Goggin. He is down. The stretcher is down beside him. Tommy O'Donnell went off with what could have been a broken ankle. We don't know, but he was in obvious discomfort. So 2 players gone out of a team that isn't exactly has a huge sense of depth. I'm disappointed with the attitude for 15 or 20 minutes. It was just the game was won, and that step off is just, you just can't do that in this competition. I think they've got away with it, and I hope that they learn heavily from it. If they can use that as a cautionary tale, that look, we have to keep our focus entirely up to speed for the whole lot, then that's important. There was some great play. I thought when Albie Matheson came on, I thought he was excellent. I thought Carberry was excellent throughout. Some of the forwards had really fine games.
But Woody, the challenge for Munster today in terms of managing the ebb and flow of a match is when they focused, it was easy. They could score tries relatively easy, and the lesson for me is recognising that just because it's easy in one moment doesn't mean that you can just abandon your principles and processes. You have to keep, and that's one thing from last week, the Leinster Wasps game. At no stage, and I know Leinster are ahead in the development, all that kind of stuff, but there's the gap. At no stage did Leinster say, hang on, this is simple, let's just play it simply. They just kept on driving Wasps into the deck.
Well, the way Leinster celebrated the 8th try in the Wasps game, as Joe mentioned on off the ball a couple of times over the course of the weekend, was frightening. That kind of bloodlust and that ability to keep everything focused on the minutiae, from a breakdown to a pass to a handling error, it just doesn't exist at Leinster. And
well, I look, that was a fantastic display for Leinster last week. We didn't see that level of ruthlessness today. We did see some great scores that we haven't seen for a while, maybe in Munster. I thought they looked really good, but I think the level of energy that's required for the whole lot wasn't there, and I think that will upset them a fair amount. And I have to say, we talked about Gloucester because they had a little burst of play for 10 minutes, but Gloucester brought very little to this game today. And I do think something that detracts from the whole performance is when it's brought down, when a player is sent off very early, it becomes quite hard to keep your level of attention up all the time. Yeah. And for Munster, that's what it proved to be. I'd be a little bit frustrated with that. then you'll go away and you'll say, okay, a little bit frustrated, but we've done everything that we've had to do. We've got our 5 points, we've given them no points. Let's be happy, let's move on. You have to learn the lessons from this.
And we're watching, just to finish on, I suppose the positive is, it's a win where you score 5 tries and you fulfill that brief, you tick that box. And certainly on a broader picture, Liam, as we watch Joey Carberry get the man of the match crystal and speak very well, the tools now here are for Munster. If you look at the performance of Tadhg Beirne over the last 2-3 weeks, 3 very important games, particularly in Europe now, and Joey Carberry, and the elements around their play and how they're adapting that set piece play with ball in hand and manufacturing those wonderful tries that we saw, albeit against 14, but they have the personnel now to do that. They just have to do it for 60 minutes, 70 minutes, 80 minutes every single week now.
Oh yeah, when you look at Klein, when he came off, that was a definite swing in the enforcement action of, and that's not a disrespect to the players who came on. I'm just saying that he's crucially important to stay on the pitch. Beirne, for me, if you're picking man of the match, Carberry definitely, but Beirne must be right there beside. He adds so much. He's stealing ball. His impact as every minute ticks by is so impressive. And then you look at the back row, like they have to reshuffle there. I think CJ Standard drifted a little bit out of the game because of the style of the game and going into 7. That wasn't his choice, that was just reacting to it. I think the key is that when they have their full deck to pick from, and when they're playing against a side that they're a bit nervous about in terms of we could lose this game, I think it brings Munster into a level at this stage of their development that they can really dominate and do the right things. As soon as they've had a sense or feeling that Gloucester are rubbish, really, they're down to 14 men, really, that's the bit that myself and Keith certainly were focusing on, saying, hang on a second, that's your Achilles heel.
Yeah.
You must recognise that now is the time to really focus in on what you want to do and don't let anything else infringe that. Like in the start of the second half, there was 3, 4, 5 minutes where
nothing happened.
There was nothing happening. For me, that's where Munster were vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's the learning curve. What Munster need to do is say, hang on a second, wow, we recognise this is our danger zone here. We need to make sure that we don't slip into a dangerous place.
We also talked about improvements. So in the last 3 weeks, they played pretty well and lost against Leinster away. They played bloody well and drew against Exeter, and now they've played well in patches and won. So in terms of the result board, the progression has been the way you'd want it to be, and it's where does it go from here on in. I mean, it's for me, I'm looking at Munster, all the time, saying what will they look like when they have all their talent at their disposal. And I think they are a match for most teams. Not every team yet, but you never know on a given Saturday what can happen. So I think they'll be happy. I'm disappointed for the 2 injuries. I really am. I think that it detracts a bit away from the game.
Like last week against Exeter, they definitely went over. They appeared to be a team that went over and said, hang on, we could lose this game, and they fought right to the end. Now they didn't play particularly well at times, and they could have won the game.
Yeah.
But the difference is that was the big difference here. They're at home. They're playing against lesser opposition, and they don't fight as hard for every square inch.
Part of the journey, Liam, maybe
exactly,
for this team, part of the journey.
And that's exactly it.
Well, step 2 on the European journey. We keep thinking of it in terms of 2 wins out of 2, but of course it's not. It was 2 points across in Devon last week, that 10-all draw, but they've moved it on a notch here in terms of the result and the points on the board. They've taken all 5 with that bonus point, 5 tries to 3, 36 points to 22. It's job done at Limerick, Thomond Park today for Munster, and plenty more to do as the journey continues into Europe this season. We'll go back to the studio and Nathan.
Thank you very much, lads. So Munster, they win that game by 36 points to 22, a bonus point win. The other match in that group finished Cast 29, Exeter 25, so it's very, very tight after 2 rounds. Munster on 7 points, Cast on 5 points, Gloucester on 4 points, and Exeter on 3 points. Next up for Munster on the 9th of December, it's a Sunday, a 1 o'clock kickoff. They're at home to Cast, so they've that double header against the French side. That game will be live on Off the Ball. There is a long way to go between now and then, though, with those 4 November internationals. We'll get reaction from both sides and hopefully get an update on those injury concerns for Munster as well, with Dan Goggin and Tommy O'Donnell both looking to have suffered pretty nasty injuries. They can ill afford that right now, but All in all, despite a pretty frustrating and disappointing end to that game for Munster, letting Gloucester back into it, they do win with a bonus point by 36 points to 22. In the Premier League, what a dramatic start to the day. A 96th minute equaliser for Ross Barkley meant to finish Chelsea 2, Manchester United 2 at Stamford Bridge, and sparked pandemonium on the sidelines, as well as one of the Chelsea coaches, Marco Ianni, celebrated and taunted in front of Jose Mourinho. You know what Mourinho did. He reacted when chasing Ianni down the tunnel. Got in a little bit of a shoving match with some of the stewards. Ianni has since apologised to Mourinho. We will bring you Jose Mourinho's post-match interview in a couple of minutes, because we're focusing on the Premier League for the foreseeable future on the show until around about 5:30. We'll bring you that Munster reaction when it comes in as well. Dan McDonald and Johnny Ward are going to join me in studio in a moment. And Stephen Kelly on the line as well.
Munster versus Gloucester, live from Thomond Park.
On Off the Ball. Join that conversation on Facebook and Twitter.
Enjoy your independent time this Saturday. Books to say boo to ahead of the midterm break.